Good evening. My name's Chuck Iova, and I'll be presiding over this evening's meeting with the Malden Planning Board, January 8th, 2020. First item of business I'd like to take care of is to let everyone know, for those in attendance, under the provisions of the open meeting law, attendees are informed that this meeting is being recorded by MATV. I have not been notified that any other video or audio recording of this meeting will occur. Next thing I'd like to do, if we could, is have everyone speak into the microphone, take attendance, starting with Tawadej.
ተወዳጅ ገብረስላሴ Planning Board.
Patrick Fitzgerald, Planning Board.
Diane Shuha, Planning Board.
Ken Antonucci, Planning Board.
Chuck Iovan, Planning Board.
Michelle Romero, City Planner.
Eric McCush, Planning Board.
Pat Hayes, Planning Board.
Eric Henry, Planning Board.
Henry Susi, Planning Board.
Charlie Ferguson, Planning Board.
Thank you very much. The first item on the agenda is 368 Pleasant Street. Ken, if you could read the announcement.
The Malden Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the auditorium on the first floor of the John and Christina Markey Malden Senior Community Center, 7 Washington Street, Malden, Mass. At 7 p.m. on Wednesday, January 8th, 2020, on the petition of Bay State Commons, LLC, to amend the special permit granted in case number 19-04 under Section 300.3.2.13, Chapter 12, Revised Ordinances of 1991, as amended, of the City of Malden, that allows dwelling, co-housing use of property in the residential office zoning district, namely to construct a dwelling containing 3 stories and 30 dwelling units at the property known as and numbered 368 Pleasant Street, Malden, Mass., and also known by City of Malden Assessors Parcel ID number 030-134-416.
Good evening, and I see the counselor here for the petitioners.
Good evening, members of the Planning Board, Mr. Chair, City Planner. My name is Roberto DeMarco. I have a home at 17 Division Street, Malden. I also maintain a law practice at 350 Main Street, Malden, Massachusetts. I'm here on behalf of Bay State Commons. As an initial matter, I'd like to be able to pass out to you a clarification on the site plan that addresses one of the issues brought forward in the report issued by the Planning Department, as well as ask the City Planner, do you want the newspaper clippings? I can pass those into you as well.
Yes, that was the original newspaper ad, which we weren't able to move forward on, so
yeah.
you can pass them in, but we have the correct ad as well, so. I mean, the current ad as well, so.
Can I pass these out, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you. No problem.
Thank you. Thank you.
As you are all aware, this project was approved back by special permit on August 14th, 2019. In that decision, there were 7 conditions made. Obtain determination of Malden Historical Commission as to whether the building is a preferably preserved building in accordance with the City Demolition and Alteration Delay Ordinance. Address outstanding safety concerns, RE site distances at both site drives, subject to the reasonable satisfaction approval of the city's peer reviewer and city engineer. Compliance with memorandum from city engineer dated August 14th, 2019. Restripe faded pavement markings and crosswalks on Pleasant Street adjacent to the property and at the intersection of Pearl Street. Provide required bicycle parking. Submit revised site plan with heights and of all retaining walls that conform to section 400.7.8 of the ordinance. And lastly, all development shall be as per plans except as modified by these conditions. It is because of condition 7 that we are here, and condition, a couple of the other conditions, condition 1 in particular. We had a hard work done with the Historical Commission, and after working with them for many, many weeks, we came to an agreement as to what should be done for the property, and we received a determination from them allowing for the demolition of the property, subject to certain changes to the plans. I have with me tonight the architects who could detail those changes that were made to the plans. Additionally, while we were coming back before you, because your order requires that the construction be subject to the plans, we also added in the bike parking. That plan I passed out to you clarifies that there are 6 parking spots for bicycles. There was I apologize, a small error that it appeared like there were only 4. There are 6 parking spots. Additionally, we have satisfied, we have been working with the peer reviewer on the traffic safety issues. We are prepared to do all the paving markings towards the end of the project, and we are hitting all the points that you require. So the plans have been revised to incorporate everything that this board wanted done as far as necessary, and we've also added into them the issues that the Historical Commission wanted done. We have added in parts of the original building. We're saving the portico. We're adding a window, an ocular window. We are using the granite that's on site in order to do some hardscaping. We are also adding in a plaque. So with these additions, working with the historical, and the plaque will be subject, obviously, to the Historical Commission's approval. With these changes and the requirement that the project follow the plans, I think the city could be assured that this project will meet everything that the various commissions want to see done. I would ask that you approve this amendment. Those are the only changes. There have been no changes to any of the site controls, setbacks, etc. We meet all the conditions as we did last time. The parking remains the same, etc. If you'd like, I can have the architect stand up and present to you in particular those issues. But I would ask that if you have questions, maybe we go in that fashion, since we've already done a full presentation on this.
The only question I have is, has the changes requested by the Historical Commission extended the project development life?
No, it has not.
Okay, so nothing that they've asked you to do is going to lengthen the amount of time you originally thought it was going to take to generate the...
No, there are a couple of, we've received permission to demo. We've been trying to do that, but because the winter caught us, we're having some problems with the public utilities because the street needs to be opened, and so we need a hardship. So that is delaying the project, but it's not a delay that's caused by your changes or anything like that.
Anything like that. Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions, or are we okay to let the attorney proceed with his presentation? I don't see any questions, so...
So you would like the architects to give you a run-through of the plans,
Just
then?
a quick run-through, if you could.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I would ask the architects if they could come up. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Hello, members of the Planning Board. Thank you. My name is Jennifer French of Charlestown, Massachusetts, and I am a member of the architectural team with the firm French 2D. And so briefly, what we...
Excuse me, miss, could you give us your home address for the record?
Oh, absolutely. It's 60 Cook Street, Charlestown, Mass.
Thank you.
So what you see my colleague here holding and on the site plan are the areas of change per the recommendation of the Historic Commission, including the relocation of the original site stairs, the granite stairs, incorporated into the entry sequence, as well as granite slabs that'll be used in the front landscaping as well, where a plaque explaining the significance of the property will also sit. On the west elevation, where there is currently a portico, the portico will be replaced, also in its west location, facing the entrance of the medical building right next door. And above that, to the left, will be an oculus window in keeping with the original building.
Okay.
And so all of the granite site work appears right directly at the center of the building on Pleasant Street at the building entrance.
At the entrance, okay.
Where the bike racks are also located.
All 6 of the bike racks?
All
are rented?
6, yes. And this group of owner occupants will definitely have extensive bike parking in the garage as well, but these are the ones that will be on the site. Yep.
Okay, does anyone have any questions about the changes? Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, just a question on the bus stop area and the reuse of the granite. That's great that you were able to reincorporate and repurpose that. But is this going to be public access, private only, or public-private?
It's going to be obviously viewable from the street, but due to insurance issues, we can't allow just unfettered access onto the property. It's an entrance, it's a public entrance to the building, so invitees will walk through it, but it's not for people to come and sit on the curb.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Michelle, do you have questions?
Yes, I just had one question. So the portico, is that just being installed for decorative use? I noticed that the floor plan didn't change, so it's not leading into that particular unit, or could you explain more about that portico?
Yep. We have turned the door, or what was previously a window there, into a door-sized opening to reflect the original portico entrance. And we're just actually discussing with the occupant of that unit whether or not a true door access or a door-sized window is appropriate for her.
Okay, so there might be access from that unit?
There might be
out, because it goes to a lawn area?
Exactly.
Okay,
It goes to a garden area.
If that's still, in the works, we want to make sure that's reflected in the conditions, since it would be all as per plan. So
Okay.
we can maybe make a note, regarding that, so that you won't have an issue if that becomes an access point. But it would only be for that unit, it wouldn't be for the whole building?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else have any other questions? Nope, do you guys have anything else you'd like to add?
No, we're just very, very excited to have this project happen and excited to be here working in Malden. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yes.
Okay, if no one has any other questions for Michelle or anything, we'll start with those that would like to speak in favor of this petition. Those that would like to speak in favor. We ask you when you come up to give us your name and address for the record, and please speak into the microphone.
Thank you. My name's Paul Condon. I live at 52 Gale Street. I'm the Ward 2 counselor. This is a project that I'm very excited about. The people that are closest to it are the people on Chester Street. And I've talked with all the people. They're all in favor of it. My colleagues on the city council, everyone's in favor of this project. I hope the board can approve this tonight, that we can get on with the project. It fits in beautifully on Pleasant Street. Aesthetically, the building will look great on that row of buildings on Pleasant Street. I think that the people that will be moving in there are going to be committed to the city of Malden. I think it's going to be positive for the city of Malden. 30-unit condo building such as this can be nothing but positive for our community. So I hope that the planning board in their wisdom can approve this tonight, and I thank you for your listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor?
Hello, I'm Paul Sherman. I live at 284 Ferry Street in Malden. I'm also a member of Bay State Commons, but I was a resident of Malden long before I was ever a member of the group. I think this is a great project. It'll be great for the city. We worked very hard in good faith to do everything we've been asked, and I think we've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's, and we're looking forward to building and moving in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, David Kamel, City Councilor for Ward 6. Though I'm on the other side of the city, I did want to echo my colleague, Councilor Condon. This is a great project for the city. It's a great type of housing. I think it's going to bring a cornerstone of community to right near our downtown. The only downside for me is that I'll be losing some great residents from Ward 6 who are moving over there. And as you hear, some folks will become, a lot of these residents already are Moldonians, and so this is giving them the kind of place that they've decided they want to live in as a close-knit community. So just wanted to echo the support for this project, and hope that you find it, approve it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
35 William Street, by the way.
Anyone else to speak in favor?
And I'm short. My name is Catherine Sedan, and I live at 66 Olive Avenue in Malden. I am in favor of this project. I am also a member of Bay State Commons, and I have been working for years with them to try to pull this project together, and I'm very glad to be at this point of positivity with this whole project. So I think it would be a wonderful addition to our city. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Malden Planning Board. My name is Neil Anderson. I am the Ward 7 City Councilor. I live at 56 Mill Street in Malden. And I'm here to support the project. I think that when we first began to hear about this new style of living, if you will, of taking this building that used to be the American Legion building and converting it and building what will be units that will be very helpful to the city of Malden. It will fit very nicely in there. As the ward councilor had mentioned, when members of the city council have talked about this in its earlier stages, we were all in favor of it. We were then, we are now, and I urge that you vote favorably on this petition. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Hi, my name is Susan Gill. I live at 284 Ferry Street in Malden. My husband and I, my husband spoke earlier, we bought a house in Malden in 2001. So we've lived here for about 19 years. About 4 or 5 years ago, we thought about our future, and we decided we weren't really happy with our neighborhood or our neighbors, and we were thinking about leaving Malden. We thought about what kind of community or what kind of neighborhood or what kind of people we'd like to live among going forward, and we discovered Bay State Commons Co-Housing Group. We've been involved ever since. I've been going to meetings, participating in planning of the community, putting in our savings to this project, and we're really happy the way it's working out. We hope that we can go forward with this project as soon as possible. As you know, it's been lengthy, and I'm looking forward to building our project and moving in with the new neighbors sometime soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor? Michelle, anything to read in favor?
One email dated January 7th, 2020. It reads, Dear Planning Board members, I am writing in support of the issuance of a new special permit that will include requirements that the Historic Commission attach to its October 7, 2019 determination and parking and traffic conditions suggested by the staff. I wholeheartedly endorse the project as now conceived and truly appreciate the efforts of the members of Bay State Common to respond to community input. I am hopeful the approval of a new special permit will allow this project to proceed expeditiously. Signed, Councilor Winslow. That's Stephen Winslow.
Very good, thank you. And is there anyone else? Last call. Okay, seeing and hearing none, I declare that part of the hearing closed. Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition of this petition? Anyone in opposition? Michelle, anything to read in opposition?
No.
Seeing no one in opposition, I declare that part of the hearing closed. Michelle, can you take us through your staff report, please?
Yes. As you heard this, and as you're aware, this board granted a special permit for the project in August of 2019. You have a copy of that decision. That's in case number 19-04. So you all have a copy of that in your package. That's referenced here in its incorporated herein by reference. So as you heard, the petition is to amend that to incorporate requirements of the Malden Historical Commission regarding historical elements that must be preserved. No changes are proposed to the project that was approved by the special permit in case 1904 regarding the number and configuration of units, common areas, and parking, except for what we just heard about the portico possibly becoming a door or an entrance to that unit. You see the plans that were submitted in support of the petition. According to the petitioner, they only submitted plans and sheets that involved the proposed amendment, so there are a couple plans that, or several plans that were not revised, so those are not included in your package. All this is in the staff report. It's incorporated by reference into the report. In terms of the Historical Commission determinations, they made two different determinations, one on August 26, 2019, that the building is preferably preserved and its demolition should be delayed, Their recommendation was the applicant redesign the project, revise the plans to preserve as much as possible the exterior structure and design of the existing building. You have a copy of that determination. It's dated August 27, 2019. Then on October 7, 2019, as the petitioner's counsel mentioned, there were several meetings over the course of many weeks and months working on this, on revising the plans and or seeing what was possible to preserve or incorporate. So on October 7, 2019, the Historical Commission made another determination, and that is that there is no reasonable likelihood that either this owner or some other person or group is willing to purchase, preserve, rehabilitate, or restore the building. The intent and purpose of the demolition delay ordinance is served even with the issuance of the demolition permit, and the Commission agreed to allow the demolition of the existing building to proceed prior to the expiration of the 12-month delay period, subject to owner applicant's compliance with the following requirements. 1, historical elements of the oculus window, side portico, granite steps, and estate setting grounds shall be incorporated into the new project as per plans. Sketches for Historical Commission dated October 2nd, 2019, prepared by Nishamkin French Architects, Inc., French 2D. The plans were attached. You also have a copy of that determination and the plans that were attached to it in your package. The second requirement was that the Historical Commission shall review and approve the historic plaque to be placed on the property. And the third was that the Historical Commission's consultant shall be allowed to take additional photographs of the interior of the existing building prior to its demolition. So those were the different requirements. And I will, when we get to that point, add another condition, which I inadvertently omitted, that should read compliance with the requirements of the Malden Historical Commission determination as stated in dated October 7, 2019, just to make sure that is incorporated in terms of zoning and occupancy. None of the proposed revisions change any of that. The property is located in the residential office zoning district. The proposed co-housing dwelling use is allowed by special permit. Direct abutters are all the same as before. I won't read those. They're in the report, which is incorporated in. Dimensional controls, the revised plans don't change the project's compliance with dimensional controls, as was approved by the special permit in case 1904. In terms of retaining walls, the revised plans do depict all proposed retaining walls are in compliance with the maximum allowed height of 6 feet. That was a condition of the special permit that they submit a revised plan showing that, so they did do that. Parking requirements, the revised plans don't change the project's compliance with parking requirements as approved by the special permit granted in case 1904. In terms of bicycle parking, the original revised plans did not depict all the required bicycle parking, and tonight we did receive this plan, which was also sent to me today by email, that shows the required bicycle parking. In terms of traffic impact, the proposal addresses safety concerns with site distances at both site drives. The city's peer reviewer made recommendations to address safety concerns. That was a condition in the special permit, and followed up with the petitioner's traffic engineer's comments that were received and that were dated August 14, 2019, that hadn't been reviewed before the board issued the permit. So the peer reviewer did have a chance to review those and did reply back. There's a letter dated October 21st, 2019. You have a copy of that in your package. It was addressed to me and the building commissioner, Nelson Miller, because of course it was no longer pending before you. And it does discuss recommendations to address safety concerns, follows up on the petitioner's latest report dated August 14, 2019. There were several other comments made regarding the site distance, and this was forwarded. So there were certain recommendations made. Unless you want me to read them, I won't go through them. They're listed here. No?
That's fine.
Okay, so they're in the letter A through E. Then there were also some other recommendations that had previously been listed. So all this was forwarded on to the petitioner, petitioner's engineer, traffic engineer, and team reviewed it. They did make changes and incorporate the requested recommendations and mitigation. So you do have in your package a plan that's called Pavement Marking and Signage Plan. It's dated November 20th, 2019, and that does show the signage that was requested at the site drives, and stop signs, no left turn, things like that, that are listed in here. The other recommendation has to do with removing the parking space nearest to the western site drive to improve site distance. That will require the approval of the city. It is listed in here as a recommended condition. Again, the petitioner responded, and it's my understanding they either presented everything in the plans they submitted and or agreed to address. So that's where that stands. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
I don't see any.
Okay, so in terms of the findings you must make to grant a special permit, or in this case to amend the special permit, you must find compliance with dimensional controls and parking requirements, and you must find the proposal is in the interest of the common good. So this recommendation was prepared prior to the public hearing, and provided the board makes the required findings. The recommendation is that the petition to modify the special permit be granted, and that a new special permit be granted subject to the following conditions. 1, all development shall be as per plans, except as modified by these conditions. And those plans will reference these revised plans, as well as the original plans that weren't revised, that are still in effect. 2, install pavement markings and crosswalks on Pleasant Street adjacent to the property and at the intersection of Pearl Street. Install signage on Pleasant Street as per pavement marking and signage plan. 3, install and maintain signage at site drives as per pavement marking and signage plan. 4, obtain city approval to remove parking space on Pleasant Street adjacent to Western Site Drive and install no parking signage. As I just mentioned, they'll have to work with the city. I believe they go before the Traffic Commission, and I believe the ward council can assist them in filing that petition. I think with this going forward, presenting this as a requirement of this board is for the approval of the project, and with the council's support, I don't anticipate there'll be any issue with that. But this is written as a requirement that they have to obtain it. So if there's any sense that there might be an issue, you should address that now. Otherwise, they would not be able to comply with that condition. And I don't know if you want to. Okay.
I don't see any reason why they
Okay,
wouldn't.
so they're going to need to do that. They're going to need to get the city approval. And then 5, within 6 months of occupancy regarding allowing a left turn at Pearl Street and Route 60 Center Street, conduct a study for which the scope results and recommended improvements are to be reviewed by the city peer reviewer. This was recommended by the city peer reviewer, given the fact that all traffic leaving the site is going to be required to take a right turn, and it will be going into that intersection. There was a question as to whether that movement could be improved, not only for the residents here, but for other traffic as well. So we've already, or I should say the peer reviewer and I have already given back comments as to possible ideas for this study. They're very simple, easy ways. They probably have a lot of the counts and info already. And then there are a couple other, test scenarios. Again, it will need city approval to ever change it, but it's something that we'd like looked at. Again, given the circulation patterns that we're going to be having here. 6, provide all required bicycle parking on site. They've done that, so I guess we could technically eliminate that condition. I would recommend you eliminate it. So the new 6 will be compliance with the memorandum from the city engineer dated August 14, 2019. You have a copy of that in your package as well. I didn't read that into the record. That's the same recommendations as previously. And then I recommend 7, compliance with the requirements of the Malden Historical Commission as stated in its determination dated October 7, 2019. And then 8, I would recommend the portico may be used as access only for the adjacent dwelling unit, just so that it's a possibility, but it won't become a point of public or, public access, which might be something you wanted to look at, given that it goes right out onto a lawn that's right near the, drop-off for the garage entrance. So
Okay.
if it's going to become something more, you would want to know about that. So that does give them the option, if they decide they do want to change that and make that some sort of main entrance or primary entrance for the building, they can come back and amend that. But as of right now, it would be only for the adjacent dwelling unit.
Okay, very good.
Adjacent one dwelling unit, so those are eight conditions.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Michelle on the 8 conditions she read? No questions? Is there a motion? Ken Antonucci.
Mr. Chairman, per planning recommendation, I'd like to make a motion to approve the petition to modify the special permit and a special permit be granted subject to the 8 revised conditions as read.
Very good. Is there a second for Ken's motion to approve the recommendation of staff with the corrections? Eric McCush.
I'll second that.
Eric McCush seconds.
Ken Antonucci?
Yes.
Diane Chuha?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I didn't check. Is Charlie voting on this?
Charlie's not voting.
Okay.
Charlie would be voting on 45
Okay,
Holyoke
sorry
Street.
about that. And this isn't tabled, so never knew these members will vote. Okay, Patrick Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Tawadej Gebrselassie?
Yes.
Patrick Hayes?
Yes.
Eric Henry?
Yes.
Eric McCush?
Yes.
Henry Susi?
Yes.
Chuck Iovan?
Yes.
Okay.
So the petition. I wasn't going to ask that woman to try to turn her thing around. Yeah. But you can say recommendation of staff. Yeah. Okay, you all set?
Yeah. That picks up everything.
Yeah. So you ready? Okay, the next petition that we'll hear is 100 Maplewood Street. Is the petitioner present? Yeah, no, I know. I just want to see someone working their way up. Okay, Ken, if you could read the notice.
The Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the auditorium on the first floor of the John and Christina Markey Malden Senior Community Center, 7 Washington Street, Malden, Mass. At 7 p.m. on Wednesday, January 8th, 2020, on the petition of 100 Maplewood Street, LLC, for a special permit under Section 700.13 of Chapter 12, Revised Ordinances of 1991, as amended, of the City of Malden, to remove ledge and alter the grade, to prepare the property to construct a new single-story commercial building with basement at the property known as and numbered 100 Maplewood Street, Malden, Mass., and also known by City Assessors Parcel ID number 127433302.
Thank you, Ken. Good evening. Remind everyone name and address for the record, and if you could sign the sign-in sheet that Linda has out there.
Will do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Rick Salvo with Engineering Alliance, office at 194 Central Street in Saugus, Mass. We're here this evening on behalf of 100 Maplewood Street LLC, as you indicated, for a ledge removal special permit. This parcel, I think, is a pretty well-known parcel in the city of Malden. It's located at the intersection of Maplewood Street and Eastern Avenue, and prior use was the Papagino's Pizza that existed in this area over here. The parcel is known as tax map 127, block 433, lot 302, and is comprised of about 31,500 square feet of land. I'm sure this is a pretty high-profile site. Most of the board members have noticed that this site is currently under construction. Just as a matter of history, this particular project went through a public hearing with the Zoning Board of Appeals for some dimensional relief, which resulted in the building program, parking layout, and curb cut configurations that were on the plan that was approved by the Board of Appeals. It then went through the building permit process, received its building permit. Somehow, and I guess maybe we should have played the lottery when we did it, but when we hired the geotechnical engineer to do the borings for the soil boring capacity for the building, we tested the four corners of the building. The existing building on site had an existing basement in it. There was no indicators that there was any ledge on this property. We had dug some test pits at the locations of the subsurface drainage facilities that were proposed as part of the stormwater management system, dug test pits anywhere from 6 to 10 feet deep, didn't run into any ledge. The ledge profile that was realized is in this area here. If I back it off, it shows up a little bit better. It's in this area back in here. So as the contractor was excavating for the building footprint, we ran into this ledge profile that was located anywhere between 3 to 5 feet below grade. So there's, as you know, driving through the area, there's really no ledge croppings or any ledge indicators from that. So that's why this project is sort of partway into construction, and we're here now. We had no indication that that ledge was going to be an issue. The proposal, just to back up, is a 10,000 square foot retail building. It's going to be comprised of 10 different units, approximately 1,000 square feet each, all at grade level, with the storage for each one of these facilities at the basement level below grade. If I flip over to sort of a cross section, this is the existing, the proposed ground, the existing grade right here. The brown right here is the ledge profile that we encountered. The building footprint is here. So the ledge excavation is approximately 460 cubic yards, about 500 cubic yards. The ledge excavation will be approximately 5 to 6 feet of ledge that would be removed off of that knob to accommodate the basement. That would equate to approximately 23 trailer loads of ledge that would leave the site. The proposal is to remove the ledge by mechanical means, and our industrial seismologist, Rick Roll, is here, and I'll bring him up in a minute just to talk about the properties of the ledge itself, as he was able to do an inspection since it was all unearthed. But it will be removed by mechanical means, by a pneumatic hammer, which will probably be suitable for the majority of the excavation. As you know, you don't know how hard the ledge is until you start excavating it. If we run into some harder ledge, it would then be drilled and still removed by the same mechanical means. Relative to stormwater, I know there's a stormwater section under the ledge removal special permit. This is a unique site in that the ledge, is 3 to 5 feet below grade, so the ledge really doesn't play a major role in the stormwater management system for the site. Nonetheless, we did recognize the fact that we were completely redeveloping a site that had little to no stormwater controls in it. So the proposal consists of a series of deep sump-hooded catch basins, which captures all the stormwater that is discharged from the site on site. It then discharges those into water quality treatment units, contact CDS units, and then there are 3 separate subsurface Caltech facilities located on the property, all of which have been sized to handle the 100-year storm. So we're more than doing our part to manage the stormwater on this site. Besides just managing it, we're managing it in complete compliance with the DEP stormwater regs, as that's really the only set of regulations out there that sort of dictates how you manage stormwater. So we're managing both the rate of stormwater runoff, the volume of stormwater runoff, and improving the quality of stormwater prior to discharging it back into the ground. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to Rick Grohl, so Rick can sort of talk a little bit about the quality of the ledge that exists on site, the mechanical means, and what impacts are to be expected by that mechanical removal.
Excuse me, before you leave, can I just ask a question? Is there any possibility that you'll run into more ledge when you try to put in the catch basins?
No, because we excavated test pits at each one of those facilities and didn't run into any.
You're okay.
The existing building that was on site, which is in this area right here, had a full basement in it. So we're not anticipating any other ledge other than that.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Richard J. Grohl of Richard J. Grohl Technical Services. I'm an industrial seismologist that has been employed since 1989 in the industry, performing seismic monitoring, pre-construction, pre-blasting inspections, and claim investigations on behalf of the construction, blasting, and insurance industries. I was asked to come here this evening to address the issue of rock that was encountered in this excavation. The rock that they encountered is a metasedimentary rock, slightly metamorphosed mud and claystone known as Cambridge argillite. The rock is not real weathered, not extensively weathered, but it is extensively fractured. It's a relatively soft rock, and the amount of rock that is found is mostly standing as an outcrop within skewed to one side, but pretty much standing as a mound in the center of the excavation, and is therefore fairly well relieved. It's not something that is flat with where they're looking to excavate to and dig down into it, which would be highly confined and hard to move. The rock will prove to be excavable with mechanical means. The means that we propose to use is a hydraulic breaker. A hydraulic breaker is nothing more than a steel barrel, solid steel barrel, that is mounted onto a mast of an excavator, and it repetitively percusses against the rock until the rock yields, it breaks. You've probably all seen these used commonly in the area because of the amount of rock that you have in town and in the area, in the region. The means of protection for the surroundings were examined as far as what levels of vibration would be produced by a hammer of this nature and this kind of material. What we did was examine a similar type of situation where hammering was performed in close proximity to protected structures. In the case that I used as an example, they were hammering next to a parking garage for a hospital on Commonwealth Avenue in Brighton, and the rock was Roxbury conglomerate, which is not very weathered and extremely hard, very resistant rock. And they hammered that rock out to as close as 11 feet from the footings of the garage without causing any damage to the garage. And the particle velocities, or the levels of vibration that were attained at 11 feet from hammering at 11 feet from the garage, were below the thresholds that would cause damage to any of the most sensitive common construction materials, such as plaster or drywall. So using the levels that were observed in that situation, they were projected to this site, which has rock which is slightly less resistant to motion and breakage, and slightly more weathered than the rock that we encountered in Brighton. And we examined, first there's a home here, 890 Eastern Avenue. It's 30 feet from the nearest areas of the anticipated rock excavation. We projected what the levels would be based on a peak particle velocity of 0.375 inch per second at 11 feet out to 30 feet away, the closest point where they would be to the home, and the level of vibration was 0.083 inch per second. In the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, there is a regulation for vibration, which is principally established for blasting. There are no other standards in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for vibration other than the blasting standards. So for legal compliance purposes, we use that as our standard. And it is a frequency-dependent standard. At frequencies that are low, your limit is lower, and at frequencies that are high, your limit is higher, because a frequency is basically the measurement of how many times a particle oscillates when it's agitated in the Earth. So if a particle is agitated and it follows a large path and only oscillates a few times per second, it's going to have a much greater motion back and forth than one that is moving very quickly, like you would find in hard rock, propagating vibration. So that being said, the level that we got, that we project out to the nearest home, would be 0.083 inch per second, and at the lowest frequencies that would be observed from hammering, 2.7 to 10 hertz, we would be at 0.5 inch per second, which would be about 15% of their limit. And if they were at frequencies in excess of 40 hertz, like you would find in hard rock typically, which is what we observed when in the hammering study that was performed in Brighton, they'd be at 4% of the limit for any potential for damage. So we know that there would not be any damage potential to the home here from hammering here. There's a building that's 10 feet away, a commercial building, which is 900 Eastern Avenue, and that's a block structure. And that structure would be actually spec'd to a higher vibration limit than the home. The home has wood frame and is
Excuse me,
lined
sir,
with plaster
could
or
you,
drywall.
when you turn away from the mic, it's hard to hear you.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
If you could either move your tripod closer or bend the mic so it's picking up your voice. Thank you.
The building at 900 Eastern Avenue is block, and it is actually more resistant to vibration than the wood frame structure, about 50% more resistant to vibration, and therefore the level that we observe, 0.375 inch per second at frequencies in excess of 40 hertz, would be about 12% of what would pose any risk of damage to the building. So there's only 12%, there are 12% of the damage threshold that's established for block and masonry. Up here is a gas line which is directly along the edge of the existing excavation. I don't know if that gas line is actually operating or pressurized, but it would not matter, as gas companies commonly drill and blast within 4 or 5 feet of pressurized lines to put in new lines next to them, and their spec is typically 4 inches per second, but steel pipe is actually resistant to about 25 inches per second. So 0.375 inch per second will not even closely approach any thresholds for damage to the steel gas line that's in the ground near the north side of the site. All of the other residences and buildings are across streets or across the bikeway. You have a regulation or ordinance in the town that requires that we offer an inspection that documents the condition of each property, each improved property, within 300 feet of the property line, which we have ascertained what those buildings are and provided a list with the report that was written for this, for the study of this particular situation. And we would be prepared to offer by certified mail and regular mail a inspection to all of the owners of those buildings within 300 feet of the site perimeter. Such an inspection is documentation of the condition of the buildings, and it's known as a pre-construction inspection. In blasting, it's known as a pre-blast inspection, which is specified by law in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and by ordinance in the city of Malden. And what it does is it demonstrates what existing cracks are in the buildings and what the contractor is doing by offering such an inspection to the owners of the surrounding properties is they're offering to demonstrate that their activities are not causing damage to those properties. It's entirely voluntary on the part of the property owners whether or not they have such an inspection performed. It's simply incumbent upon the applicant or the developer to offer the inspection before they begin their work. Then, after all the inspections are offered and we've demonstrated that anybody that's wanted an inspection had an inspection, anybody that did not respond or said they didn't want an inspection, we have proof of mailing that they were offered the inspection. At that point, we would proceed with doing the rock excavation, and seismographs would be installed at the closest structures. Wherever they were hammering closest to the block building at 900, we would place one there. If they're working nearest the gas line, we would place one there. We would place one at the house probably all the time because it's the closest residence. And then if there were any complaints of vibration from anywhere else, then we go address those complaints wherever they may come from. It's impossible to anticipate who might claim damage or claim that there's some deleterious effect from the hammering activity. So we kind of have to work reactively in that case and just take a seismograph there to measure. Commonly, I'll set up as many as 9 or 10 seismographs in a project, whether it be from mechanical excavation or blasting. And that's after the fact. If there's any claims of damage, then we would go back per the ordinance and perform a post-inspection and do a comparison as to whether or not there was any change visible between the pre-inspection, which was a video documentation of the existing conditions of the properties, and afterwards. And that's the whole process.
Okay, thank you. I was wondering if you could repeat the part about the gas line. If you could just repeat that again
Sure.
for me, that would be great.
On the north side of the property, up by the bikeway, there's a steel gas valve that comes out of the ground about 10 feet off of the edge of the excavation. And I assume that gas line runs parallel to the excavation and the bike path. And we would set a seismograph to monitor the vibration there, and we would just monitor it to demonstrate that they're not exceeding what we anticipate the vibrations would be, which would be 0.375 inch per second, which is maybe it's less than 10% of what would cause damage to a steel pipe. And it would be, well, it'd be less than 10% of what is a recognized standard of 4 inches per second to protect gas lines, pressurized or not.
Okay, thank you. How long do you expect the excavation to take?
Well, it's going to depend on the resistance of the rock. If they get in there and they start hammering at the rock and it yields freely, they could excavate all of this in as little as 2 weeks. If it becomes extremely resistant as you get deeper into the mass, which is typical in rock, the surface of rock tends to be more weathered than when you get down deep into the rock because it's not exposed to oxygen and it's typically saturated. So that material might be a little bit more resistant, tough to say. My estimation is of the condition of the material at the surfaces, it will probably break easier than harder. And if it does become more difficult, we have at our disposal drills that they would bring in to perforate the rock to expedite the process.
Okay, and when we talk about this hammering, are we talking about 8 hours a day for 2 weeks, for 10 days? Or
Yes.
is it periodic, like 20 minutes and then a 20-minute break? Or
Well,
is it
typically
just constant?
it goes until it doesn't go constant for 8 hours. It goes through a period of repetitions for a few seconds to a couple of minutes. Then they have to reposition. But yes, it would be something that would be taking place over the course of a workday.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask a quick question? Can you point out what area you think is all ledge?
Actually, it's right in this area. Oh, just the red mark, okay. Yes.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for the engineer? Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, going back to the gas line, as far as I know, that is an active gas line and maybe a high-pressure gas line. Have you been in contact, or is anyone involved with the project been involved in any contact with the utility company? I don't remember if it's National Grid or who else might own that gas line, because that is pretty close.
The gas line's owned by Kinder Morgan, which was formerly Tennessee Gas Pipeline Company,
yeah.
which most people recognize it as. So we've met out there with their representatives several times. Obviously, when we first got out there, anytime you send in a dig safe, when we were doing test pits, demolition, and the such, there was at least 3 dig safes. Their representative did come on site. He actually located the pipe for us and marked where it was, and our surveyor picked up those markings. So when you see this pipeline right here, it was actually delineated in the field by representatives of Kinder Morgan. Because we're not working in their easement, that pipe's actually not even on our property. It's on the adjacent property.
It's the railroad, right?
Yeah.
The right of way.
Yeah, the inspector didn't have any issues with the excavation activities that are ongoing, and he indicated that he didn't have any issues with the hammering activities that are expected here. As Mr. Grohl mentioned, these vibrations are so far below. I mean, if we were working in here and bringing this excavation up in lifts and compacting with a vibratory roller, that vibratory roller would actually create more vibration than the actual hammering activities. But we were asked if we could get something in writing from them. Unfortunately, he's just a field inspector, so he doesn't write reports. I did try to reach out to their engineer today. Unfortunately, he's on vacation until tomorrow, but we will confirm with them. So if the board decided that they wanted to move forward and there was a concern about the gas line, we would certainly be amenable to a condition that we provide some kind of proof in writing before things start that Kinder Morgan is on board with this, because we're going to need to do that anyways.
Well, one thing is, I think, Mr. Grohl, you mentioned that the gas line is like right on the edge of the excavation. I don't believe it's actually, from the drawing, it looks like it's, probably at least 10 feet away from the edge of the actual cut.
I think that's what he said. Didn't you say 10 feet away from the excavation?
It's away from the cut. It's not like on the edge.
About 10 feet, but you can't distinguish where the rest of it.
Scott Fitzpatrick, business address is 67 Maplewood Street, representing the owner, 100 Maplewood Street. I've personally had the contact with the representative from Kinder Morgan, who represents the pipeline owner. The pipe has actually been staked out in the right-of-way. There's a 10-foot easement that the gas company owns. The pipe lays right in the middle of the easement. The easement, when you go down there, you'll see the pink flags. The pink flags are the edges of the easement. The yellow flags are the pipe. It actually turns away from the property down in here. It comes from the regulator station. It comes down here, and as it gets to the street, it turns to get around the Malden Spring building.
Right.
So in any given point, it's from the property line, it's at least 10 feet. Our excavation's about 3 feet in on the property line.
Right.
And then as you get to Maplewood Street, it starts to move away from the property line.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, Mr. Morabito's been out. We have, I think, 4 separate, maybe 5 separate dig safes on there, 2 sets of test pits, a cut and cap of the water and sewer, a demolition, and then the actual excavation. And then we'll be required to file an additional one because the work has changed with the proposed ledge. I spoke with them yesterday afternoon and today. Unfortunately, they can't get anything in writing, but we will meet them out there. I believe the fire lieutenant or the deputy chief from the fire prevention wants to meet them on site, and we'll go over it again, if this is approved, and We'll review everything on site.
Like I said, I just wanted to clarify I know the site and everything, and
Yeah,
I've seen it, so
mean-
I know it's not, I just wanted to clarify that so people didn't misunderstand. I think Mr. Grohl, when he said on the edge of the excavation, it isn't literally on the edge of the excavation. There's a good distance away.
No, and anyone can go down
so-
there and see the flag, you
so,
know, I mean, with the snow, some of them might have.
I'm satisfied with it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, but you did say you're going to put are you required to put a monitor on the valve, a vibration monitor on the gas line at all?
I will put it as close to the gas.
Just close to the line, okay.
The closest point where they're working.
We don't have access to the fenced-in area. In order to get that, their representative has to come out and open it. I'm not sure he's going to want to do that twice a day.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it needs
as long
to
as
be
it's close enough.
at the fence or at a location that they're happy with as well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Henry Susi.
Along the bikeway at that point, there is an area that's quarantined off with chain link fence due to a hazardous waste release that has been there. I'm just wondering your awareness, and is there anything in these processes that gives us any cause for concern as it relates to that hazardous condition?
I can answer that one. We're not going near that quarantined area. We did test all our soil on the site, and we handled ours properly. Anything we had was below reportable limits, and everything we hauled off site was trucked to a landfill. We have all our bill of ladings in Portsmouth, Rhode Island, but we're not going there anywhere near the quarantined area on the bike path.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Michelle?
How close are the houses along Wade Street? To the, you could say just to the property line, since we know the excavation's 3 feet in, so do you know how far, I know they're within the 300-foot property line, but do you know how close they are?
I don't recall offhand, but I think they're about 150 feet.
150 feet?
Yes.
So from your property line across the bike path, then over to the Wade Street, you think?
The MBTA right-of-way is closer to 80 feet.
80 feet in width?
On average. It varies throughout the city, but 80 feet is a good average of the right-of-way.
Okay, thank you.
Eric Henry, please.
Thank you, Chair. It was mentioned about the stormwater management process, and as it being built out to accommodate the 100-year storm scenario. It seems like we're hitting 100 years. We'd be like 500 years old now. It seems like we're hitting 100-year storms much more frequently these days. I would like to hear what the criteria are with regards to the 100-year storm scenario.
Sure. So a 100-year storm is defined as a rain event that would produce 7 inches of rain at an intensity that it has to fall within a 24-hour period. Okay, so, you know, to that end, I know there's a lot of misconceptions out there that people think that we get the 100-year storm on a regular basis. You know, when we get 3 or 4 inches of rain that falls over a weekend, we feel like we got, you know, quite a rainfall. So these systems were designed for an intensity of 7 inches of rain that has to fall in a 24-hour period. Not a 3-day period, not a 5-day period, within 24 hours. So, you know, that is the 10-year storms, you know, the 4.5 inches of rain, you know, these systems more than completely handle those particular events. So, you know, to design for a storm event bigger than that intensity, you know, really isn't a practical thing to do, because at that point in the game, you know, everything around it is completely flooded. So, you know, this system that's in here far exceeds the system that was there before. And as a matter of fact, it even exceeds some of the DEP requirements. So it's not a minimalistic system by any stretch of the imagination.
Excuse me, thinking and understanding that I understand that to be quite a bit of groundwater or subsurface water in the area, that Broadway area, and in that area of the city as well. Actually, it's probably in a lesser amount of time than 100 years, it can be a considerable point of concern for the city. So what is the point of, I'm just basically trying to see if is there a way to go add an extra pump or something in it, just for a point of failure, because climate change is in effect, and these things are coming.
And I understand that.
You have an opportunity to be well ahead of the curve at this point.
Yeah, so this is a gravity system. It's not a pumped system, so it's a very sustainable system. We did prepare an operation and maintenance plan that we submitted with the drainage report that the property owner will be, any stormwater management system will require maintenance. I think what my response to that, in my opinion, when systems are designed to not only mitigate a 100-year storm, but to hold a 100-year storm, that's two completely different scenarios. Okay, so and what those scenarios are is we take a look at the site and the pre-development condition before it's developed, and we model how much stormwater runoff runs off of this site. So, first and foremost, it's only a 31,000 square foot site, right? So the site itself, in the grand scheme of things, compared to the overall city of Malden, doesn't create a tremendous amount of stormwater runoff given its size. Nonetheless, we calculate by a model based on the impervious surfaces, the soil conditions, and a bunch of different factors, how much water runs off of this site. And then what we do is when we design these systems, we analyze these systems to hold the difference. What the regulations require you to do is not exceed the pre-development rate of runoff. So in other words, if there was 2 CFS running off this site in the pre-development condition, and we only have 1 CFS running off the site in the post-development condition, we've met the standard. But what I'm telling you is these systems were designed to completely hold those storms. So there's no water running off the site. So to that end, it exceeds what the standard is. And, to your point, I mean, that's why we over-design these things, because, like you say, in coastal situations, sea level rise is a real thing. Climate change is a real thing. So I would respectfully submit to you that this system does take those scenarios into account.
Thank you.
Ken Antonucci.
It's come up a couple of times that, this is adjacent to the bike path, the Bike to the Sea. Are you going to have any type of screening or anything up during the chipping operation? Just, between the operation and the, pedestrians, bikers, whatever.
Right now we have the 6-foot chain link fence. We can add debris netting to it.
Yeah, like
if that's
some fabric or something.
Wish of the board. The only past experience with the fabric is sometimes you get a big wind and it acts like a sail. So we haven't put it on yet, but if that's something the board would like to see, that's something that can be done easily.
Yeah, just as long as you feel comfortable that you're protecting people that are going by them, and there are a lot of kids and people on that path. So.
Understood. I mean, fortunately, the ledge starts 4 or 5 feet in the ground. We're not going at a mountain trying to take it down, but adding the screening is no problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Tawadej Graber-Selassie.
Thank you. How long the construction will be expected to be finished?
I'm sorry.
The construction, how long it takes?
Well, the excavation for the specifically the ledge excavation, we're anticipating it might be anywhere between 20 to 45 days, depending on whether the ledge comes out easily or more difficult. Is that the question, or were you asking about the overall construction?
The overall construction.
The overall plan was for a 9-month construction period, but when we hit the ledge, we put a stop on everything. I mean, we had rebar shop drawings approved, we had steel shop drawings, the fabricator was about to start fabricating, so once we commence, we're thinking about 9 months, but all the work we had ongoing, we put the brakes on until this hearing, which that was, we stopped back sometime in early November. So it's going to take some time to get that going again, you know, probably best case scenario, a couple of weeks of ledge, you know, worst case a month, and then probably a 9-month construction schedule before we're ready for occupancy.
Sure. How many parking do you guys?
44 spots are shown on the plan.
Is it on the street or underground?
All at grade, no underground.
Sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Michelle.
I had a couple questions. So how long do you expect the ledge removal to take? I heard a couple different things. I heard a number, I heard it depends on the ledge, I heard.
I mean, on average, we're guessing that it could be about a month. It could be about 2 weeks if everything comes out nice and easily. You know, it could be maybe a month or a little bit more than a month. It should be right around the month mark, though.
And is that something you can do weather permitting, or you can do it regardless of the temperature? Or?
Yeah, fortunately, ledge doesn't freeze, so yeah, we
Okay,
can.
so you'll be able to do that. There won't be a delay because of weather or anything?
Correct. I mean, there may be some delay for weather. If we get an excessive amount of snow, you know,
Okay.
that could certainly slow things down. But I think the plan would be to
Winter like
work with
2015 would slow us down in the hole with, if it, you know, we get 2 or 3 feet of snow down in there. And the only other thing that concerns me is if we get a cold stretch of below 0 temperatures for 3 or 4 or 5 days, it wreaks havoc on the equipment. The lines gel up, the fuel gels up, and sometimes you just have to walk away from them until it warms up a little bit.
Okay, and so you know one of the requirements is going to be to give notice to everybody within 300 feet of your ledge activity. So if it starts and stops, you'll be giving the notice multiple times. You know, you may project it's going to be, you know, these dates, 6 weeks. If it ends, you'll need to reissue that notice.
Yeah, no, we understand.
Okay.
I mean, we haven't had issues like that since, I think it was the winter of 15 where the equipment froze and
Okay.
put us out of business for a while.
Okay, and is there going to be any issue with the equipment? We've seen that occasionally, that the equipment you think you can get to do the ledge removal is all of a sudden not available.
No, this is much more standard than those projects. This is just a simple pneumatic hammer and potentially a drill, so
Okay.
very readily available.
Okay, and then I had a couple other questions. You mentioned Board of Appeal, and you did go to the Board of Appeal for a side yard setback. Did they give you any variances of anything to do with parking, landscaping, bicycle parking, screening, anything at all? Because I don't see any of that on the plan, and I'm wondering, you know, what the status is of that. You have certain requirements to plant so many trees per parking spaces to screen the residential property from the parking and to install bicycle parking. Will you add those to the plan? I didn't see them on the plan.
Yeah, I don't recall if there.
I didn't see it in the variance decision that you sought any other relief other than this one side yard setback.
That's correct.
Okay, so if that was a condition that you're going to comply with those requirements, you'll submit a revised plan showing. I know you show some landscaping, but it's just kind of basic landscaping, so I think it's going to end up being 4 trees of a certain caliper.
Yep.
There has to be berm, et cetera, you know, around it with drainage. You can see the requirements in 500.2.13.
Okay.
And I saw you did the snow storage, but you didn't get a variance and you're fine with adding those?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll finalize the landscape plan.
Okay, thank you. And that would include the screening too. In terms of the gas line, I did ask about that, and I appreciate you trying to follow up on that. One of the recommended conditions is that we do a pre-construction meeting, like a kickoff. I'm going to suggest that a gas line representative also attend that, and fire department representative attend. So I'll get to that when we get to that. But
And that's no problem for us.
Okay. And if the condition you mentioned has to do with screening, you just want to leave screening the fence, or do you want to specify what it is, or?
That was just temporary.
So a
safety,
temporary.
that's just temporary
So
safety
temporary
screening.
safety screening of.
around that. It's
for-
nothing-
along
nothing
the bites
permanent.
of
Yeah.
the sea. Okay. I
Just
just
so
wanted
even-
to clarify and that everyone understands. And my last question is tenants. Do you have tenants identified yet for these spaces? And they're going to be retail, office?
The variance was for retail sales under 5,000 square feet, retail service, and general office.
Okay. Anything else you know you could apply for, you just have to come back?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the petitioner or Michelle? Is there anything else you'd like to add, sir?
No, I think that'll do it.
Very good, thank you. At this point, we'll ask for anyone who would like to speak in favor of this petition. If you could come up, when you come up, I remind you to just provide your name and residential address for the record.
Hi, Councilor Dave Kamel. I live at 35 William Street. So I come to a little bit reluctantly support, and I say it that way because certainly there's going to be some annoyance factor with the noise, and that is one thing I'd like to know is what are the estimated decibels of the sound coming from the site, and how does that compare to the ordinance that we have in the books in terms of those limits? However, having said that and acknowledge that issue, from a long-term point of view for the neighborhood, to finally have this site redeveloped is going to be pretty positive. So when I say I support it, I definitely do that with contingencies, of course, with all of the 13 original planning recommendations, and then a few that have been mentioned since then. Mr. Antonucci mentioning, and Ms. Romero reiterating screening that would protect the folks on the bike trail. Also with the landscaping and screening, as was mentioned, and with having the gas utility rep come there. Those are great additional recommendations, and I hope to see that in the final approval if you do vote to approve that way. And I do want to just go into a little bit of detail why these recommendations are important and why that does have some bearing on whether I support this. So obviously no blasting, only drilling and chipping. That's important. Various safety measures have been discussed here in these recommendations, so that's good. I believe, Ms. Romero, is there also some communication from our PIPs and/or our fire department in terms of?
I will read that. I have a
Okay,
letter
thank you.
from
I
the
just wanted to
fire
make
as
sure.
well.
Yeah,
Thank
all right.
you.
Seems like reasonable hours. 7 a.m. is a little bit early, but that's what our ordinances say. It'd be good to see that maybe, I don't know if make it an official condition, but maybe to see that at 8 a.m. would be a little bit better. Controlling the erosion and managing the stormwater. Again, Mr. Henry asked some good questions, but just bear in mind that right now we have nothing. I don't believe there's any stormwater management there whatsoever, so this would be a big improvement in an area that does have runoffs. Even though it's flat there, we do have runoffs, sort of sheets of water that come down from higher elevations around there, so it would be good to have some management there. And of course, the pre-work survey, I think, is definitely it's called for, and that's going to be a good safeguard against making sure that the vibrations don't cause issues in the neighborhood. So while definitely there are things here to consider, taking a step back and looking from the long-term perspective to finally have this redeveloped. Right now it's a giant hole in the ground, and many residents are wondering when that's going to be resolved. And I hope to see that voted favorably tonight, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this petition?
Name is Gerald Zielinski. I live in Webster Street my whole life. Not necessarily in favor or against. My concern with the site and what they're doing and what's been there before is the traffic. Because what was there before, the site was originally built for McDonald's. than Papagino's, and there's never been 44 cars there before. I mean, Papagino's 8 or 10 cars constant in and out. And the problem is with the traffic, the best way out of this site where the driveway has been for McDonald's and Papagino's is right there. Any other way out is a problem, because if you're here, you're at the corner with the traffic light, and Maplewood Street's always backed up, so you can't go out here and take a left because you can't get that way if this is where the driveway is. As I said, the main driveway's always been on the north part of that site. This driveway is also a problem, which is where it is today also, because there's 2 lanes of traffic here. The right lane is for right turn only. The left side always backs up at the light. So if somebody's coming out of here trying to take a left, it's almost impossible. And if you're coming out here to take a right, it's only to go up Maplewood Street, since that's a right turn only lane, so you're better off going out here, but they've moved the driveways down. So my concern is traffic related, not necessarily the ledge related, but is the building in the right place? Should the building be moved so you don't have the ledge problem? I don't know. I'm not a ledge person. And the other thing is, I'm not sure where the fences are today with the construction that's going on. But you got to make sure this sidewalk during the construction remains open because of the kids going to the Catholic high school. Because on the other side of Maplewood Street, the cars are always in the trucks because of the repair shops that are there, always have that sidewalk blocked. So you got to keep this sidewalk open for the kids going to school. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this petition?
Hello, Cindy Robillard, 9 Waite Street, Malden. I'm directly behind the construction, so my concern is noise, vibrations, damage to the house, you know, concerns with any major construction. We haven't had any problem thus far with them, but it just sounds like it's going to be a lot of noise, and I know we can't stop it, but I guess, when do we expect the letters to come out saying that we can have a house inspected, so if anything happens, we can, you know, they'll repair it? And is there going to be a plan that if there is damage, it's done in a good amount of time? It's not like you have damage to your house, you wait 3 years to have it repaired, because you hear about things like that happening. And I am concerned about the gas line. I know you all talk about it's so far away, it's you know, 10 feet away and everything, but you hear about gas lines exploding and then there's no homes left. And it's a little scary. It's just a little scary. And so, you know, I mean, they make it sound like it's so easy, but we do have concerns, you know. So much concerns that when they do it, I'm probably going to ask my family not to be home during the day, because I am a little nervous about the gas line being there. So if you could get that information, you know, that would probably make, you know, the people that are directly near there feel a little better.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor? Anyone else speak in favor? Michelle, anything to read in favor?
No.
Very good. Is there anyone that would like, if there's no one else that would like to speak in favor, declare that part of the hearing closed. Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this petition? Anyone in opposition? Michelle, do you have anything to read in opposition?
Well, I do have one email, and it's maybe not exactly opposition, but there's some questions and concerns. It's dated January 7th, 2020. It reads, Dear Planning Board members, I'm writing to comment that the proposed ledge removal at this location abuts not only the Northern Strand Trail, but also the high-pressure gas pipeline and shutoff valve that sits within the MBTA right-of-way, immediately next to 100 Maplewood Street. I did not see any note about whether Tennessee Gas Pipeline has been notified of this work or provided any comment. Any damage to the above-ground shutoff valve could create a situation of an uncontrollable leak of high-pressure natural gas. I suggest any approval be delayed unless and until the gas pipeline company has been notified and provided an opportunity to comment. That's from Councilor at Large Steve Winslow. I did forward that to the petitioner, and I received a response that explained they had been in touch with the representative for the gas line, provided some of the information we heard tonight. So I sent that on back to Council Winslow. He responded today, January 8th, with a follow-up comment that says, one follow-up comment would be that the permittee be required to ensure a meeting occurs with the ledge removal crew to go over the location of the gas shutoff valve, and that the crew have the Kinder Morgan contact information on site as well as Malden Fire contact information. And that's from Steve Winslow, Councilor at Large. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Seeing and hearing none, declare that part of the hearing closed. If we could, there were a few questions from those who spoke in favor, and I was wondering if the petitioner's team might want to address some of those. The first one was by Councilor Kamel. What would be the estimated decibels that'll be generated, and how does that compare to the ordinance, city ordinance?
The decibel level from a hammer is somewhat variable because of the constant change in the disposition of where the hammer is working compared to the surroundings. But in clear field propagation, generally a hammer produces 80 decibels at 50 feet. Now this is construction noise, and it's, any construction noise is kind of inescapable as far as whether it be a heavy truck, which the Federal Highway Administration allows trucks to produce 88 decibels at 72 feet. So it's certainly within within a reasonable level that you would get for equipment, for mechanical equipment. But that's, as far, I'm not sure that there's a specific noise level that you have for the city of Malden.
We do, if I could provide
please.
that. So this is from our noise abatement ordinance, section 7.9 of the city ordinances. So this defines excessive noise. Between the hours of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m., noise measured in excess of 50 dBA at the property line, or clearly audible by a person of normal hearing at a distance of 100 feet from the source. We're not going to be doing this at night, so that won't apply. 2 is between the hours of 7 a.m. and 9 p.m., noise measured in excess of 70 dBA at the property line, or clearly audible by a person of normal hearing at a distance of 300 feet from the source. dBA shall mean a weighted sound level in decibels, measured by general purpose, properly calibrated, blah, 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 about the standards. I won't read. So that is what it is. So he, I believe, just said 80 decibels,
Yes.
but you said at 50 feet, so maybe he could explain. Does that
Well,
meet this?
there's one small problem with that specification. Are you talking about apparatus that will be permanently installed that produces noise at a property, like say a chiller on a building? Because every one of you will violate it when you drive your car into your driveway and accelerate back out, or run your lawnmower or run your vacuum cleaner or your leaf blower or anything else. I mean, there is a certain amount of reasonableness that has to be read into your ordinance. This is construction. Are you going to find the people that plow your snow? Are you going to, I mean, heavy equipment needs to be used to perform a multitude of mundane daily functions throughout the city, all cities. And realistically, this is construction activity. You have to be able to make a certain level of noise as long as the equipment is well maintained and producing noise levels that are as low as reasonably possible, not a screech or some kind of a noise coming out of the machine that would imply that the machine is not being maintained properly or used properly. Otherwise, under its normal operation, you have to expect a certain amount of sound. It's a temporary condition that's affiliated with a routine maintenance or construction issue.
Okay, and we do have exemptions. So the following noise-producing activities are specifically exempt from the provisions of this ordinance. And the one I believe that applies is any work or activity which has been specifically licensed or permitted by a city department, board, or commission, provided that the noise created is limited to the days and hours contained in this ordinance or by the terms of a license or permit. And you may be wondering what are the hours contained in the ordinance. So noise emanating from business activities. For this particular activity, no person engaged in the business of construction, demolition, excavation, or landscaping or engaged in construction, demolition, excavation, or landscaping for profit shall operate mechanical, motorized, or sound-producing equipment except on weekdays between the hours of 7 a.m. and 5 p.m., provided that said equipment may be operated on Saturdays to such an extent that excessive noise is not created. That is where I took the proposed hours of operation, which you heard the counselor ask if he wanted to change that. It is within this board's, jurisdiction to set hours of operation that may be more restrictive than what the ordinance is. But the ordinance does allow Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and I guess if you did allow it weekdays, you would have to exclude Saturdays, otherwise it could possibly be included. And I guess that would be an exception, that they aren't meeting this 80. The 80 doesn't meet the 70 that's listed in here.
We can do 8 o'clock.
So it's excessive noise, but you're allowed to allow it by the special permit, I guess. So in response to the council's question, our ordinance says 70, but this is being proposed at 80.
Sorry, just a clarification, 70 at the property line. The property line is 80 feet away versus 50 feet away, so I think there's some...
70 at the property line are clearly audible by a person of normal hearing at a distance of 300 feet from the source, so it probably would fall into that. But, right, so that's all I have for that.
And an 8 o'clock start, as the council recommended, works for us as well.
Okay, so that one sounds like it satisfies it. With regard to the traffic in the area, have you guys seen the letter from the city engineer dated December 10th?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything in that you won't be able to comply with? And the one I'm looking at that applies, I think, to traffic is his first recommendation. He references that it could cause a problem with sight distance, that he's recommending that
the first
entrance on Maplewood be removed.
We'd like to keep that first driveway. It is an existing driveway. It's been there. Right turn only might be something that would work there.
Which one?
The
bottom left.
Eastern Avenue?
Bottom
one
left
across
on
from the gas station, the one that we're using to access the site right now.
Because I was going to jump in on the same thing. Is there been a consideration of just making that you've got the two driveways on Maplewood, making the one closer to the Eastern Ave, just an in only and an out only, instead of having them both entry and exits?
We could. We laid them out at 24 feet, so they both could be two-way, but if, we could do one entrance and one exit, if that's,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've looked at that for any kind of traffic flow, and also your point on the Eastern Ave exit, maybe just a right turn only or something, because that corner is going to be tough as, I apologize, I forget your name, the resident that lives on Webster Street pointed out. That is a tough corner.
yeah, you can't leave this exit and you can't take a left onto Eastern Ave. It's
Yeah. Right.
physically impossible.
So
it is
the
difficult.
intention is to keep all 3 curb cuts that currently
It
exist.
would be,
There's only two.
right now, this one exists and this one exists, and the third curb cut is up here in the building. So we would be looking to open the third right there.
Close one and open a new one.
And open a new
Yes,
one.
to have 3, but I think it makes for better flow on the site, easier access to the parking, but if, as Mr. Antonucci suggested, maybe restricting one in, one out, and then right turn only on the Eastern Ave side.
It just might help with your flow.
Which I think the Eastern Ave one previously was labeled right turn only.
So it would still be 2-way, but exiting, you could only go right.
Yes.
And then the other 2 would be 2-way.
Well, or per Mr. Antonucci's suggestion, make one an entrance and one an exit, and we'll sign them accordingly.
Someone's still going to want to take a left when they come out.
Yeah, but they'd only be able to take the left out of the entrance that's
Top
further
one.
from Eastern Ave. So they won't be trying to come out and traffic taking the turn at the same time. It's just that it's the proximity to the...
I mean, that whole area is
Eastern
tough.
Ave.
I mean, my shop is just up the street, and I can't exit my yard 2 times a day, once in the morning with the school traffic and once in the afternoon.
Yeah, it's tough.
So, you have to plan your trips accordingly in that area, unfortunately.
And from the pictures that the city planner provided, it looks like the sidewalk is open, that the fence is behind it.
The sidewalk's open. We've worked with Bob Knox on the location of that fence, and we're maintaining 4 feet from the back edge of the granite to the edge of the stanchions to meet the accessibility requirement.
And there are no plans to push it out during the heat of the construction.
No, we'll actually be coming in. Once the foundation's poured and backfilled, we'll be coming in a little.
Okay.
Yeah, and you did a nice job with making that a little inlet for where the trucks are pulling in. that
Yeah,
little
so we can
holding
get in and
area
open the gate and
without
not
blocking the side.
be hanging out in the street.
And last thing, Scott, if you could let me know the, yeah, Michelle will read it in a second.
Yeah, I can give him a copy if you want to look at a copy. You can keep that. That's from the city engineer.
Okay, so the last one Ms. Robillard brought up was, when do you plan on providing notification for pre-inspection?
I would work with Michelle and the building commissioner to determine the right time. I don't know if it's proper to do it within the appeal period or to wait. I mean, we want to get back to work there, so we want to do it as soon as possible.
But it's going to be sooner rather than later. Presuming it moves forward, you would be...
We need to get back to work. The site's been sitting for almost 2 months right now.
Right, so you'd be notifying them and they would be able to... They would be able to... they would expect notification.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we're required to anyways, but...
right.
Per the ordinance, but...
Yeah, she's within the 300 feet.
Without a doubt.
You'd have to.
Ultimately, it protects me. It's my liability.
Right.
So...
I don't know that we can speak to the speed of repairs. I would think that would have to do with the insurance policy.
I would think so.
And I don't know that that's something we can control from this end.
I mean, an insurance claim's an insurance claim, but what I would say is we could put one of the seismographs on her property if that makes her feel comfortable.
Feel more comfortable?
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that this is in condition 5 where we're placing seismographs, identify locations. I was going to suggest 9 Waite Street and also adjacent. Now, I heard 2 things, the gas line and then the gas meter station or whatever it's called.
It's a regulated station. It's not actually a shut-off.
So adjacent to gas line and regulator station?
I mean, the regulated station's probably the best spot for it because the the gas lines in the ground, and we're nowhere near it in the excavation. Where it comes out of the ground is probably the best spot to put one.
Well, we can, yeah, the board can decide that. But what I was going to say was that the ordinance does require the pre-ledge removal survey be done. It's a video and photographic survey to anyone who consents, et cetera, and they provide the survey to the property owner. That's supposed to be done before ledge removal begins. It doesn't specify how soon. I mean, the board certainly could say, a minimum of whatever, however many days you want it done. If not, you could just leave it open-ended. I would suggest, though, in terms of Condition 9, which is the mandatory requirement for written notice to all premises of the ledge removal activity, and I will be proposing this when the time comes to amend the ordinance, I think it should be a minimum of 7 days prior to give people notice. As she mentioned, maybe not wanting to be home, and I think in the past there maybe has been an issue where it's delivered, the day before it's going to start or something. So I think you should specify a minimum of 7 days prior for number 9, but it's up to you whether you want to specify when the survey's done. I think he said it's.
No.
Oh, I thought you were telling me something.
No.
I think it's, in their interest to move along quickly. I think the letters, the way they did on the past cases, they have so many days to respond to it. And I think you have to make so many attempts, and then you're supposed to get the sign off if they say no, or you've made the attempts to deliver it. So it's not just like one chance and you happen to miss the mail, it's.
Right, but I would imagine that notification needs to be more than 7 days.
Right, that's for the survey,
Right.
I talked about notice to when the activity's going to start. The 7 days is for notice to when the activities start.
Okay.
Unless you think it should be more than 7.
I think 7 days is adequate
Right.
for the actual activity. I think
To
what she
offer,
brought
yeah.
up was the inspection.
Conducting, right, to offering, right, that's the survey, right, the inspection. There's no time frame specified, it's up to you. But this is a condition, and it reads, before ledge removal begins, provide city with list of all properties surveyed and contacted. So they not only have to contact them, they have to do the survey before they can
Right.
start, so,
Right, okay. That's all I had, thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle, you want to take us through your staff report, please?
Well, do you want me to read the couple letters
Oh,
I
yes,
have?
yes, please,
too?
I'm sorry, I forgot about that.
There's a letter from the city engineer, Yem Lip, dated December 10th, 2019. It reads, the engineering department has reviewed and approved the above site plans, ledge removal plan, and stormwater management plan and drainage calculation report. We offer the following comments. 1, recommend eliminating the curb cut on Maplewood Street closest to Eastern Ave. The curb cut is too close to the intersection and could present inadequate vehicle stopping sight distance. 2, all existing abandoned water, sewer, and drain lateral connections shall be cut and capped at the main lines. All work within the right-of-way shall be in accordance with the standards of the City of Malden. 3, water and sewer connection services, including fire protection lines, shall be filed with the engineering department. Sewer II mitigation, if deemed necessary, will be determined based on design flow. Provide PDF copy of as-built sanitary sewer and storm drain system, including engineer's certification of detention, leaching basin, once site work is completed. 5, the applicant shall arrange with the city engineer for scheduling the following inspections, or shall have a qualified third party as determined by the city engineer perform the inspections and submit a detailed report as to their findings. 1, erosion control inspections after site clearing, rough grading, and final grading to ensure erosion control practices are in accordance with the plan. 2, inspection prior to backfilling of any underground drainage or stormwater conveyance structures. And 3, final inspection when all work, including construction of stormwater management facilities and landscaping, have been completed. If you have any questions on the above comments or would like to discuss this further, please do not hesitate to contact me directly. Next, I have an email dated January 8th, 2020 from the fire department. It reads, we did have some time today briefly to review the plan submitted by Engineering Alliance and the property owner of 100 Maplewood Street. The seismologist report was very helpful in outlining all the key factors and variables regarding the proposed ledge removal from the site. The fire department's main concern is the distance between the ledge removal work area and the gas pipeline. Therefore, the Malden Fire Department would require a fire watch detail each day the excavation machine was in use during the removal process. There were no other major concerns that we could find. Please contact us if you have any questions. Signed, best regards, Lenny Halloran, Malden Fire Department. He's a deputy fire chief. That email I received this afternoon. A few hours later, I received another email from Lieutenant Kevin Halpin of the fire department, who had been copied on that email, as was Chief Finn. It reads, after speaking with Deputy Halloran, we would like to revise our request to read as follows. A fire watch may be required at any time during the ledge removal process at the discretion of the fire chief or his designee. This would give us a chance to better review this project scope due to the fact that we just got the package yesterday. Please respond back that you receive or call me. I responded. He's referring to the fact that I inadvertently did not submit the information for the fire department review prior to this week. And I had asked them if there was any way they could, review it ASAP so that you would have some comments from the fire department. So those are the comments that I received.
Thank you. If there's nothing else to read, if you could take us through the staff report, please.
Yes. So I will note that this property, that the former building was demolished. The owner did proceed through the demolition delay ordinance process and filed the application with the Historical Commission on July 2nd, 2019. The Historical Commission made a determination that the building at the time was not significant and the demolition permit was not delayed. You have a copy of that determination. It's dated July 2nd, 2019. The proposal, as you heard, is to remove ledge. You heard about the means. You heard about the building to be constructed. I've listed here all the plans and information submitted in support of the petition. These are all incorporated by reference into the staff report. I will note that there is an email that was received from the engineer. The staff report just hold on a minute. References the email dated January 2nd. I did have a question about the amount of ledge to be removed. We did hear that it's approximately 500 cubic yards, and I've described here, based on that email, that that's the in-place ledge volume, but there'll be approximately 690 cubic yards removed. That's the chipped volume. So I wanted to note that. Hours of ledge removal activities, I did confirm those with the Building Commissioner, Nelson Miller. I have an email confirming that. That's what I stated to you earlier, I read to you. In terms of the required plans and information, everything was submitted. We heard about the city engineer's review. In terms of zoning, the property is located in Industrial 1 zoning district. The proposed business uses are allowed by right in the district. Abutters, the public multimodal path, Northern Strand Community Trail Bike to the sea directly abuts to the north. To the east, direct abutters are a motor vehicle repair shop and a two-family dwelling. And to the south, on the other side of Eastern Ave, is wholesale and warehouse. Diagonally across from the intersection, a convenience store and manufacturing. To the west, on the other side of Maplewood Street, a gasoline filling and service station, motor vehicle repair shop. Surrounding land uses are residential to the north and industrial and business to the east, south, and west. In terms of dimensional controls, the proposed new building complies with dimensional controls for the proposed business uses except for one side yard setback. It is a subject of a variance. I've given you a copy of that. It's attached. It was granted by the Board of Appeal March 20th, 2019. Parking requirements, the proposal complies with parking requirements in terms of the number of spaces. And I did note those other few parking requirements that they will need to meet. Findings required to grant a special permit. You would need to find the proposal is not detrimental to the neighborhood and that the proposal will not adversely affect the general welfare or public safety. Does anybody have questions? Or if not, the recommendation, which was made prior to the public hearing and provided that this board makes the required findings, is that a special permit be granted subject to the following conditions. 1, all development shall be as per plans except as modified by these conditions. 2, all ledge rock removal may be done only by hydraulic breaker attached to an excavator or an equivalent vehicle equipment, and hydraulic drilling. Any ledge rock removal by blasting or any other mechanical or other means is prohibited. 3, during site development, implement erosion controls as per plan. 4, offer and conduct pre-ledge removal video and photographic survey of all buildings within 300 feet of the property lines of the subject property, who consent, and provide survey to property owner. Before ledge removal begins, provide city with list of all properties surveyed and contacted. 5, during any ledge removal activity, place seismograph on site and at the following properties or property line with 890 Eastern Ave, 900 Eastern Avenue, I would add 9 Waite Street, and adjacent to the gas line / station. That will, I guess, leave it open-ended. I'm not really sure where it should go, if it should be next to the station or next to the gas line or both. You can discuss that. 6, maintain liability insurance of a minimum of $100,000, $300,000 with City of Malden named as lost payee. 7, during site development, hire fire details and provide a fire watch at any time as the fire chief deems appropriate and necessary in his reasonable discretion. That, I believe, is in accord with the second recommendation we received from the fire department. If you want to stick with that, that's correct. If you want, the original recommendation would read differently because it would be required at all times. So 7 is as the second recommendation. The revised recommendation was. 8, during site development, hire local police details as the police chief deems appropriate in his reasonable discretion. These 6, 7, and 8, 9, they're all standard conditions. They're required that you put those conditions in. You can make them more restrictive, but those are the minimum conditions for any ledge removal special permit that's granted. That's per our ordinance. 9, deliver written notices to all premises within 300 feet of the property lines of subject property, including the dates of ledge removal activity will be conducted and the hours of beginning and ending for the same. Submit copy of notices to the city. I would say to the beginning of that, we could say a minimum of 7 days prior.
Okay.
To activity. Then it would read the rest. 10, the hours of operation for any ledge removal and or any construction equipment operated for ledge removal or site grading preparation are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. So two things to note. I changed the 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., so you're being more restrictive than the ordinance. That's fine. You're also being more restrictive because this is not only ledge removal. This is any construction equipment operated for ledge removal or site grading preparation. So that's starting the trucks up, revving the trucks up, getting prepared to start the ledge removal. It's not just the actual ledge removal. This is a condition that we drafted on prior permits for ledge removal because we had issues with people doing exactly that. The ledge removal was very, there were problems, about. So 10, the hours of operation, I already said that one. So 11, install stormwater management system as per plan. 12, provide construction schedule and owner, site engineer, geotechnical engineer, contractor, gas line representative, and gas line representative shall attend a site meeting with city engineering department, fire department, and city planner prior to the start of work. So I've amended that condition based on things we heard. 13, comply with recommendations of city engineer described in memorandum dated December 10th, 2019. If you want to exclude item 1, you would need to do that. Otherwise, you would be recommending or requiring that curb cut be closed. So
yeah, I'd recommend we exclude number 1.
Excluding
and then,
item 1, and then add the
conditions about Eastern Ave being right turn only, and then the entrance exit.
Okay. So then I had 14 was landscape site in compliance with section 500.2.13. This will include several different things. So that was part 1. Provide required bicycle parking and screen parking from residential property with privacy fencing. It does say fencing or foliage, but I think you should just specify the privacy fencing. That's 14. 15 would be maintain protective screening along Bite to the Sea Trail during ledge removal activity. And I said protective screening because I feel like that's open-ended enough. It's not just visible screening we want. It needs to somehow protect if there's anything flying around. So I don't know what that's going to be made out of or what. They have discretion to figure that out. But and then 16, I had a condition that said designate site driveways with pavement marking and signage as follows. And then I had A, Maplewood Street Northern driveway, one-way exit only. Is that exit only? Okay. Maplewood Street Southern driveway, one-way, entrance only. And then Eastern Ave driveway, two-way, right turn, exit only. So that would need to be pavement marking and signage.
Yep.
Is that everything?
Ken?
Which one should be entrance and exit, or possibly both? Can we ask the petitioner to work with Ken Petralia to determine what would be the best entrance? Because I'm thinking if you exclude entrance on that northern one, you're forcing people to take, possibly coming down Maplewood Street, taking a left closer to the intersection.
Well, I agree, which is why I asked.
Which is what you
mean?
don't want.
You know,
Yeah.
which is why I said which was going to be which, because originally I thought it would be the reverse, but then I thought about it, and then I thought it would be the reverse.
Well, you wouldn't.
I don't know.
Either way, the closest intersection on Maplewood to Eastern is going to be problematic.
And I
So,
think
mean,
that's
I
why
would
I think that's why the
defer
city engineer recommended it be closed. But
closed.
yes, he recommended it be closed. So you certainly can have them work with the city peer reviewer, but you know, I don't know that that's, you know, that would have to be at the cost of the petitioner to do that. And I don't know if he ends up recommending that that be closed, where that leaves us. So this has not been reviewed by the peer reviewer. It did not get reviewed, to my knowledge, by the Board of Appeal for traffic impacts, and it did not trigger the. So it's up to you if you want that to be looked at. I just am forewarning you, it may be more than just, you know, a simple, it may be other recommendations. So I don't know what you want to do.
True, it has been there forever. But I mean, this, you know, I mean, the statement, the thought is that, you know, this entrance has been there forever, but it's most likely going to be higher traffic volume than when it was, you know, a few cars coming in from McDonald's or Papagino's. I would prefer that, you know, the petitioner work with either the city engineer and possibly engage the, you know, peer reviewer. Because I mean, I don't feel like I can make a decision here on
Right, and I mean,
flow.
in fairness, I think the city engineer already gave his opinion. He said it should be closed. So I'm not trying to give you a hard time.
No,
but
no,
I don't
that's
know why
fine.
we would
I didn't-
require him to work with the city engineer if he's already given his opinion.
Okay.
They don't agree with it. So I don't know. I would hesitate to make a condition that really doesn't have any.
Right. I would say if you work with the city engineer and if the petitioner is okay with eliminating that one, that southernmost entrance exit.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had the opportunity to meet with them yet. If we could just craft the condition that says that we have to comply with the city engineer, that we have to satisfy the city engineer. Maybe it's not going to be that exact recommendation once we get to meet with them, but whatever his recommendation is, we can work it out with him, would be great.
So do you want to say then, do you want to not try to regulate any of these site driveways? Do you want to say the city
I would defer to the city
operation of
engineer.
the site drives will be again, though, you can't defer too much to somebody else. So if he ends up saying they're closed, he's changing the site, which is what he recommended.
At what point do we table it until this is resolved, is really what you're asking.
That's another option, to table it till it's resolved.
No, I'd rather not table it, but I mean, if it's
You still
not,
have to apply to the DPW commission for the second curb.
for the curb cuts.
To relocate the curb cut, so there is another set of eyes looking at this.
Right, they may not get permission for the second curb cut. I mean, you may put conditions in.
Right.
I do tend to agree that you're kind of just making them, it hasn't been really professionally looked at.
They may require it to be closed to open the other one.
Right.
But, you know, they ultimately have the
Well,
permit granting authority for it.
Can we make it to, is it appropriate to put it to the city engineer and DPW, like we do with other things, to the satisfaction of the city engineer and the DPW? Because, I mean, I didn't see the city engineer's letter until you read it in, so.
And presumably, they're going to comment again during the traffic commission process, so maybe where this is just a ledge removal permit, we could let that particular process happen during that traffic commission permitting.
DPW commission.
DPW commission, excuse me.
In front of traffic.
No, DPW commission, not traffic.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing, if you adopt GM's recommendation, the city engineer, compliance with that, excluding item 1, so you're not saying they have to comply with it. Any curb cuts, new closings, openings are subject to DPW approval. You don't actually have to say that, even though you typically do. If you want to try to make a restriction on the operation of this site, it needs to be reasonable. You can set reasonable conditions on use of this site. Now's the time to do it. So either you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. The city engineer can weigh in with DPW, and they can, I mean, he tried to weigh in with you, so, for what it's worth,
I'm sorry, what?
I'm saying the city engineer did weigh in with you, so he can give his opinion we asked for his opinion. DPW.
Oh, okay, all right.
Close it.
Yeah, we asked the city engineer to review the plan, so he did, and then he wrote that letter. You should have a copy in your package.
Yeah, I didn't see it. So.
Oh.
The problem with ordering it closed is we don't have permission to open the second one yet.
Right. I would rather not us impose, I would rather not impose a condition myself on the direction. Then, so I guess we just leave it the way it is.
So you're suggesting delete 16 in its entirety?
Yes.
Okay, there's some other people who've weighed in. Let's see if this is an item they want. Patrick Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michelle, if you could clarify, if there wasn't this issue with the ledge removal, we wouldn't be involved in this development, correct?
That's correct.
So where it's a ledge removal petition, do we have the authority to make conditions on these other issues?
I think that you do, as long as they're reasonable. You wouldn't be making conditions on, use of the property. You couldn't say you can't use it for general sales. I think that it's related to the fact that they have to remove the ledge removal is due to the siting of the building, and that has to do with the whole layout. So I think it's fair for you to, look at that issue, just like you're looking at the parking layout, et cetera.
Okay.
That's my opinion. I don't know if it were taken to court and challenged, 2 years down the road, the court would say, hey, that wasn't reasonable. So I don't know if they're going to go that route. So.
Okay. My thoughts on it, it's a little ambiguous, and I guess where the city engineer is already recommending eliminating the southern entrance off of Maple Street, I just wanted to hear from the petitioner what their thoughts are on that recommendation. I mean, you've got 44 parking spots. You have a much greater use than what was there before.
Yeah, we have 44 spots shown, and the two driveways just work for the site. For us, they work for the site flow better. And as I said, this one isn't permitted yet. So if you give me a condition that I have to close this and the DPW doesn't grant that, I have a site with no access.
Right.
Because this driveway is, it's there, it's existing.
But that's not real probable,
No,
that they're going to make you
No.
close one and not open another.
but, I mean, that's,
No, I recognize there's a risk.
not guaranteed.
But it's not guaranteed.
and
But-
they can also require me to close that as part of this opening.
I mean, my thoughts on it, if the design and the plan is for both entrance and exit, I would leave the northern entrance as both in and out, and then the southern one simply in only. And that would give people coming down from the north down Maple Street to come in further up rather than clogging traffic down by the light. And then essentially the only people that would use it, the lower one would be people coming off of Eastern
Coming this
Ave
way, coming
to
in
the
and
right
turning in,
and
or
going in.
coming up out of the shopping plaza on Maplewood Street.
Right. On Maplewood, right.
Okay, hold on a second, let's see, Eric McCush wants to weigh in also. You all set, Patrick?
I am, thank you.
Okay, Eric McCush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just looking at the layout, this reminds me a lot of the CVS building on the corner of Ferry Street and Eastern Ave, and where they do have the one entrance on Ferry Street and the one entrance on Eastern Ave, and the Ferry Street entrance, the exit is a right turn only, but you can access it on both ways. So it does seem feasible to, as the city engineer recommended, close the southern entrance, but do so with the maybe put in a restriction like until such time that you get the DPW approval to open the northern entrance to maintain the southern entrance and then close the southern entrance.
The CVS site's also larger and has more flow, more drive aisles around it, so
okay.
the site flows a little better. The parking area is a much larger site.
Okay.
So, in there, they have parking along here. So you actually, there's a drive aisle down and around, and there's a drive aisle in between and in front of the store.
Mm-hmm. And around back of it, too.
Exactly, yeah. That way,
All set, Eric?
without drive aisles in here, it, really locks that in. And you're putting all the traffic up through here coming in, whereas someone can pull in here, pull into some of these spots.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Ken Antonucci.
So, Michelle, how would you recommend we proceed with this? I mean, would we be better just leaving, not mentioning anything? Because I think the only thing, and just leave it in the hands of the recommendation of the city engineer and let the process of the curb cuts, approval with the DPW and everything, shake it all out?
I mean, I think there's three ways. You don't mention it at all. I'd like Eric McCush's idea that says southern curb cut shall be closed subject to DPW approval of proposed northern curb cut. So it's tied to that. It's only going to be closed
if they get the
permission to do that. I have to say that I understand it's not there now and it's not approved, but that's the plan that they submitted and that's the plan that the city engineer looked at. So I think that that's reasonable. So either don't talk about it at all or try to phrase it that way. And then the third option is to table it and to get some more information. Whether that's, they can pursue a DPW curb cut tomorrow. They don't need to, the curb cut permit is good for a year. So they could file this plan tomorrow and get on the next agenda to be heard. So it's not like it would need to be, after construction that they do it. That would be your other option. If you want any input, like more professional input than the city engineer, who is a professional, then that would, involve the city peer reviewer.
I would propose, Michelle, that we craft a recommendation where we exclude, where we already said we were excluding engineers, number one, but then do it, craft it, as you said, despite the, that we make the closing of the southern curb cut contingent on DPW approving the northern one. Do you guys, Ken? Do you,
No,
I had a question.
okay,
I'm a little confused.
can you bend the mic down, please, and talk into it?
I thought we had another option where the one closest to Eastern Ave was going to be in only, and the other one above was going to be in and out. Is that what we're talking about? Because that's what I like.
Well, that was the first one, which then after we started talking about it and I thought we couldn't decide which should be in only and which should be out only.
The very first one on Eastern Avenue, coming off
that
there,
both
that's
ways,
only in. You can't come out of it. You can only go in it. So it'll say do not enter when they're trying to exit
So
out
the
of it.
southern one is
In only,
entrance only.
And the other, and the other one, that one's double, so they can come in and out on that one. That's the one I like, because it makes sense that when you're coming in off of Eastern Avenue, you're gonna come into that first one and just park. Okay? I don't wanna go all the way up and then come in. It's gonna be easier to go and go right in. But coming out, that's gonna be a problem, because you can't take the left. That's what everyone has a problem with. I don't think there's a problem going in.
Well, I guess that would also need to be contingent on DPW approval of the new curb cut. So whatever you do, we would need to add that, subject to,
Yeah, but I don't want it to
DPW,
have
yeah.
to say it has to be closed, because if DBW likes the idea that that's just an in only, I think that would be nice to keep it.
but that recommendation to close it was the city engineer's recommendation, right?
Yeah, but like I said, it's been open for 100 years, and it's
Mr.
really
Chairman,
the exit.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Are you finished, Diane?
yes.
Yes, sir.
Is it possible to try to maybe simplify the condition that says that all curb cuts must meet with the approval of the DPW and the city engineer? And we'll make sure we get their approval. We're going to need to anyways when we go before the DPW for the other curb cut. I mean,
Right,
we're going to need their approval either way, so.
I mean, you don't have to say that. So they are, any curb
already
cut
required.
openings and closings need DPW approval. I don't know if the city engineer typically weighs in with the DPW. He weighed in with you, so he wanted you to consider that. So it could be also subject to city engineer. I mean, typically, I don't know then what would happen if he wants it closed, but DPW wants it open, then you have a condition that has two different things. So I'm not really sure. And I still, just to go back to it, I'm not really sure which should be in only. I heard what Diane said, but I don't know. I don't know if which should be in only or out only or both. So you have some different options. I don't know.
Ken
Well,
Antonucci.
yeah, Mr. Chairman, you were starting to finalize like a crafting a condition there. Can you finish that off? June, Michelle, we're talking
That
about
was
that.
eliminate
And then we
southern
kind of
curb cut.
got sidetracked.
Provided DPW approves new northern curb cut.
Yes. I mean, that's one option. What that does is that recognizes the recommendation of the city engineer, and it also provides flexibility or the concern that the petitioner had that they
Becoming
don't
landlocked.
have the curb cut already. But Diane's proposing another one. That's certainly an option. Bless you. So.
Do we need to somebody need to make a motion to approve?
Well, someone needs to make a motion, and it needs to include one of them. Please I've just been handed something from a member of the audience. Ask, what was the gentleman's name? Yes,
I just wrote
Gerald
it. Yeah.
Solinsky. Please be sure the fire department has an emergency contact for Kinder Morgan during the process. Very good, thank you.
So do you need a motion
So
on?
someone has to make a motion, and then it can either include one or the other, and if people feel strongly enough against one or the other, they'll vote against it.
Well, I mean, do you need a motion on the condition first, or a motion on the whole thing
Well,
with a condition?
someone needs to make a motion including a condition.
Okay.
Could I
Are
just
we
say,
at
though,
that
or
point?
you could try to get this condition figured out, because if the whole thing, you need 6 votes to grant a special permit. So if 6 people aren't in favor of the condition you pick, you know, then it's not
Well,
going to pass. So then
okay.
someone could make another motion, granted, but,
Okay. Well,
you know,
the
maybe
con-
you should try to figure out,
The condition specifically for this traffic issue, I would like to put in what basically Chairman Iova and Member McCush put forward, which was the accept the recommendation of the city engineer to close the southern curb cut contingent upon approval by DPW of the addition of the northern curb cut.
Mr. Chairman, the existing driveway here is 18 feet. The drive aisle for the two-way traffic is 24 feet. If you will eliminate this, you're down into 18 feet and possibly also creating a zoning violation on me.
Okay.
I don't see that, but.
Right here? The existing driveway is 18 feet?
Right, but driveways are 18 feet, parking aisles are 24. You would still have a 24-foot. That's not a parking aisle where you,
Right here, you're not going to,
that's not a parking aisle, no.
and that'll only be 18 feet.
A parking aisle is what provides a parking space access, and those are all head-on spaces, so
Yep.
it's the spot behind you.
So this right here at 18 feet's okay?
That's a driveway, right. That's like a driveway access aisle. The parking aisle is to maneuver the car.
Here to here.
Yeah, from there to
Yeah.
there.
We don't want an issue where now we have a violation and the project's dead.
I don't think you do,
Yeah.
but, I mean, I don't know if the building commissioner's still here, if he wants to look at it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ken, so what do
So
you
I
say?
guess I would like to make are you
So
done with all the
13
conditions?
Well, let me just go back now, because 13 will now say comply with recommendations of city engineer described in memorandum dated December 10th, 2019, except, then we'll say semicolon, except regarding item 1, existing southern curb cut shall be eliminated only provided that DPW approves proposed new northern curb cut on Maplewood Street.
Correct.
So,
Which is probably what the city engineer intended anyways, but it wasn't clear. Right?
well, I mean, he did see the plan with the new curb cut, so he wasn't, I don't think, I can't speak for him, he wasn't trying to close off access. He saw another curb cut, so
Right.
I would say, yeah, probably.
All right. So if that's the last of the conditions, I'd like to make a motion to grant the special permit per the revived staff recommendations.
And there are 15 conditions.
So number 16 that we've been talking about is eliminated in its entirety.
Yes, and 13 gets modified with the contingency clause.
Okay. Okay, you have that, Michelle?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, but we need a second. Is there a second? Eric McCush.
I'll second it.
Eric McCush seconds Ken's recommendation of staff with 15 conditions.
Do you want me to?
Yep, if you take the roll.
Ken Antonucci,
Yes.
Diane Chuha,
Yes.
Patrick Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Tawadej Gebrselassie, Patrick Hayes,
Yes.
Eric Henry,
Yes.
Eric McCush,
Yes.
Henry Susi,
Yes.
Chuck Ioven.
Yes. Petition's granted with conditions. I'm sorry, next item on the agenda, we have a tabled petition on 45 Holyoke Street. Ken, if you could read the announcement, and I'd like to announce ahead of time that member Diane Chuha will not be voting on any of the 45 Holyoke Street hearings, but member Charlie Ferguson will be. Thank you. Ken, read. No, that's the one marked old here. Hold on. Okay, read this one.
The Malden Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the auditorium on the first floor of the John and Christina Markey Malden Senior Community Center, 7 Washington Street, Malden, Mass. At 7 p.m. on Wednesday, January 8th, 2020, tabled on August 18th, 2018, on the petition of the David M. Chuha on behalf of property owner Congregation Beth Israel, and I apologize, Anseliti of Malden for consent under Section 800.4.9 of Chapter 12 Revised Ordinances of 1991 as amended of the City of Malden and Section 16 of MGL C40A to consider a repetitive petition for a special permit under Section 700.1.3.1 of Chapter 12, Revised Ordinances of 1991, as amended, of the City of Malden, to allow the residential conversion of pre-existing non-conforming property in the Residence A zoning district from religious facility to town road dwelling, namely, to construct one new building containing 3 townhouses at the property known as and numbered 45 Holyoke Street, Malden, Mass., and also known by City Assessor's Parcel ID number 085408828.
Thank you, Ken. Michelle, can you give us an update on this tabled item?
Yes, this item was tabled to allow the petitioner to do further revisions. The further revisions essentially amounted to a different petition, so there is no longer a repetitive petition before you, or a need for a request for a repetitive petition, because the new petition filed was on its face a different petition. So we requested, in conjunction with the filing of the new petition, that the petitioner withdraw the other petition, which was a petition for you to provide consent to file a repetitive petition. So we received a letter January 30th, 2020. It reads, "This office represents Congregation Beth Israel Lit of Malden, owner of the above referenced premises, 45 Holyoke Street. Please accept this letter as a request to withdraw the application for consent to file repetitive petition on the above referenced Thank you for your attention. Signed, sincerely, Thomas B. Callahan, Jr. So you have a request to withdraw, and this is, again, was a request for consent to file a repetitive petition, and this concerns the 3 townhouse unit project. So this is a request to withdraw.
Okay, very good. Is there a motion to approve the request to withdraw the tabled 3 townhouse petition for 45 Holyoke Street? Ken Antonucci.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to allow the withdrawal.
Very good. Ken's made a motion to allow withdrawal. Second, Eric Henry.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to second that motion.
Eric Henry seconded. So give me a second. I will cue things up and we can take a roll call. Very good.
So a yes vote is to allow the withdrawal. Ken Antonucci?
Yes.
Charles Ferguson?
There we go.
Yes.
Patrick Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Tawadej Gebrselassie?
Yes.
Patrick Hayes?
Yes.
Eric Henry?
Yes.
Eric McCush?
Yes.
Henry Susi?
Yes.
Chuck Iovan?
Yes. Petition's been allowed to be withdrawn.
Okay.
Ken, can you read the new petition for 45 Holyoke Street, please?
The Malden Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the auditorium on the first floor of the John and Christina Markey Malden Senior Community Center, 7 Washington Street, Malden, Mass., at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, January 8th, 2020, on the petition of Congregation Beth Israel Anseh Light of Malden, seeking a special permit under Section 700.1.3.1, Chapter 12, Revised Ordinances of 1991, as amended, of the City of Malden, to allow the residential conversion of pre-existing non-conforming property in the Residence A zoning district from religious facility use to 2-family residential dwelling use, namely to construct a 2-family dwelling at the property known as and numbered 45 Holyoke Street, Malden, Mass., and also known by City Assessor's Parcel ID number 085408828.
Thank you, Ken. And I see the petition is at the podium. Let me turn that on. Very good. Counselor, if you could give your name and address for the record and then give your presentation.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Thomas Callahan, Jr., with offices at 1 Center Street in Malden. I'm here representing the Congregation Beth Israel on their application for a special permit under 700.1.3.1 pertaining to 45 Holyoke Street to demolish the existing building and to construct a 2-family dwelling. As a former religious facility, we wanted to convert this property, now that it is no longer needed, to a use that's more consistent with the neighborhood. It is a Residence A district, and many of the properties in the area are multifamily, 2- and 3-family properties. The congregation really has no more significant use for the property. It has been closed for group worship. They have continued to use it for smaller Bible studies, but it has been closed for some time now for group worship. We have been approached by a number of less traditional religious groups to either rent or purchase the property, but we have decided that that is really not the direction we want to go in, and that's why we're here tonight to convert the property convert it to residential use, again consistent with the neighborhood. The Historic Commission has determined that it's not a significant building, nor is it a preferably preserved building, so we have gone through that process as required. As you have just voted in terms of consenting to our waiver, we were here 2 years ago, and quite frankly, lost sight of the fact that that request to come back in was still tabled. We were denied 2 years ago by this board for a request for a three-family dwelling, which I think the board felt that use was a bit intense for the site. We had some thoughts of coming back and revising the plan. That's why we put in the request to come in under the 2-year period, but that never came to fruition as we worked to make a more significant change to the reuse of the property. That is, we're changing it from a three-family, the proposed three-family, to a two-family use. The Beth Israel congregation has entered into a purchase and sale agreement with Wellington Baker Associates. The principal of Wellington Baker Associates is here with us tonight, and that's Steve Skiffington. And Steve is a developer who's worked on a number of projects. He has a property he owns here in Malden. He's currently building a single-family dwelling in Reading. He's currently doing a substantial renovation of a home in in Milton. So, as I mentioned, we're going to demolish the property, prepare the site, and then construct a two-family residence side by side with 5 parking spaces at the rear. The first floor plans, as you see, for both units are an open plan, as everyone wants today, with the living room, dining room, kitchen all open, and a half bath on the first floor. The front unit has bedrooms and a bath on the second floor, and the rear unit has bedrooms and baths on the second and third floor. We would suggest to you that given the residential neighborhood that this property is in, and given the extreme hardship that would be experienced by the neighborhood if this property were ever to be reused for a religious use, that our proposal to construct a new two-family is not more detrimental to the neighborhood. In fact, it's a significant enhancement to the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay. Can you walk us through the plans and?
Sure.
And what you're proposing?
Sure. As you can see from the site plan, there's a footprint with 2 buildings. There's a driveway along the right-hand side of the property to the rear with the 5 parking spaces. There is a small patio outside of each of the units. If you look at the floor plans, as I mentioned, the first floor is very open with the kitchen, kitchen, living room, and dining room, and a half bath on the first floor. And then on the front unit, there is bedrooms and a bath on the second floor. And the rear unit, there is bedrooms and baths on the second and third floor. So the front unit is a 2-bedroom. The rear unit is a 3-bedroom.
Okay. Now, on the front unit, is it being left with a possibility to convert a 3rd bedroom on the front unit also?
No.
All I'm seeing here is attic unfinished
Well,
space.
there's an unfinished attic. It's not intended to be a third bedroom. That's expected to be storage.
Okay.
And of course, if somebody had thoughts of doing that, they would have to get a building permit.
Right. And what was the decision to do one different than the other?
The decision, Mr. Chair, was basically to try to balance the economics of the transaction in the neighborhood in terms of the intensity of the use. I think we had some thoughts about doing 2 or 3 bedrooms, but then looked at the site and said that's denser than we thought was best, And so we backed off on the front unit and made it a two-bedroom and made the rear unit a three-bedroom.
Okay. And I'm looking at the plans. It looks like the rear unit's higher to accommodate that?
I don't.
What's the height of the rear part of the building versus the front
I
part?
believe the height is consistent, Mr. Chair. That's correct.
On A2, it looks like it's higher in the back. No?
Oh, it's higher, the roof line's higher.
Right, that's what I'm asking, and just saying, I'm not sure.
Bigger plans too, there's a couple sets if anybody wants to see them. No, the roof line is higher in the back, according to the plan.
Okay.
Good evening. My name's Steve Skiffington with Wellington Baker Associates. I think the elevation there shows that gable end, which gives you the appearance of it being slightly higher than the front unit.
Address for the record, please?
11 Spruce Road, North Reading.
Thank you. Okay. Can you speak to the heights and?
Yeah, there's an overall height restriction on this, and the plan here shows the gable at the back of it that shows past the roof in the front. There may be a slight difference in height between the first one and the second one, but the average inside height isn't going to be different when you're inside the units. It's
So
just the
inside the
pitch of the
units.
roofs.
And is there a design? I'm curious. I've not seen that usually.
Design of?
Is that a design feature? Why one would be, peak would be higher
Really,
than the
really
other?
for a depth and to allow us to do that front with the appearance that it has from the street, which was a desire that they had when we're looking at that it had
No,
more
I
of a-
appreciate that. In
Right,
previous
that it had more of a
conditions, had the door in the front and stuff
Exactly,
like that.
Exactly.
I
And
noticed
it'll
that.
allow us some more green space in front from the street.
Okay. How long do you think the construction would take?
6 to 7 months after the demolition. I
Okay.
tend to be conservative with those estimates. It may be quicker than that.
Okay. Do you anticipate any problems? It's kind of a congested neighborhood. Do you anticipate any problems with getting construction equipment on? There won't be you won't be tying up parking in that neighborhood. That's a tight neighborhood from that.
No, I would hope to pull anything that we have to use inside the lot to
Stage
work
it
on
off
it. Right.
street.
Right.
Okay. Okay, what's the exterior going to look like? Is it just going to be vinyl siding? Is it going to be
Exactly,
wood?
with typical fascia on the front with some detail in the entrances, and you'll see the porches and the patios on the left-hand side, the green space in front, some plantings and so forth, and then down the right-hand side and in the back was where the driveway and parking will lead to, with, again, some more green space back there and a buffer between the back and the adjoining property.
There's a lot of
Some
mature
additional-
trees in that neighborhood. Do you needing to take any down, or were you going to be changing it at all? Or?
I think that anything that's very close to that building would have to go, but anything on the outside we'd want to try and keep and maybe prune back.
Right. Looking at the entrance, it goes down to 10 feet at one spot. Do you see a problem with that, or is it just, as you go past the driveway, as you go past the building, it goes down to 10 feet? Think that'll be an issue, or?
I don't think so. Let me take another look at the plan. No, I don't.
Yeah, okay. I mean, obviously, two cars can't go by at the same time.
No, they
but
wouldn't be, right.
It's what it is. And I'm presuming the green space is to the call it the north, but the left side of
Left side of the
structure,
building and in the front,
and then
between
in
the
the front
building and the
a
street.
wee bit,
Right.
yeah. Okay, does anyone else have any other questions? Michelle, any questions? Eric McCush?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Is this being built on a slab, or is there a basement?
There is a basement for utilities, but not underground parking or anything.
Okay, just I didn't see anything on the plans for a basement.
Okay, this is just an initial drawing of that, but there would be a basement in both for utility purposes.
How, like, what kind of clearance is going to be in the basement?
7.5 typically.
Okay. And that'll run the pattern of the entire building?
Yes.
Okay. Would a basement connect on one side to the other, or would there
No,
be a wall?
there'd be concrete wall in between dividing them.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken Antonucci?
So essentially, it's a full basement. It's not a crawl space or anything, so it's a
No,
full basement.
full basement.
For utilities, and there's going to be access.
Ductwork and so forth, right.
So there'll be
some storage.
cellar stairs, stairs from the first floor down into the basement somehow.
Exactly.
Are those shown on the drawings at all?
The detail for the basement is not there.
No, but is there on the first floor floor plan? Is there anything?
Where it shows the stairs here from the first floor to the second floor, typically the stairs going to the basement are under
So
that.
it'll be mirror under that to go down
Exactly.
stairs. And there's no plans for any bathrooms or laundries or
In the
anything?
basement?
In the basement, just
No, just
basically storage
mechanical.
space and mechanical.
No laundry. Laundry's on second floor, I think. Yeah, second floor's got laundry room.
Yes, so laundry facilities
on the
are on the
second
second floor.
Right. Okay, any other questions for the petitioner? Eric Henry?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Just a point of information and actually for point of respect as well. When Ken read the notice and stuff, to me it was kind of struggling with the name of the congregation. I just want to give the petitioner opportunity to state the proper name of the congregation for the record.
Let's ask the director or the rabbi to give us the proper.
Hi, good evening. Yitzchak Rabinowitz. I'm the rabbi of the congregation Beth Israel on 10 Dexter Street. I live on 265 Fellsway East. So the history here is that 45 Holyoke Street originally was a congregation called Young Israel of Malden. And it was on that property for a number of years. It was a very active synagogue when there were a number of Orthodox Jewish synagogues in town. As of right now, the only Orthodox Jewish synagogue in town is Congregation Beth Israel, which is on 10 Dexter Street, and we took over the Young Israel property from them. And we actually took over that property from them with the commitment to do things in our synagogue to commemorate that other congregation. There's going to be rooms dedicated in there, dedicated to the Young Israel of Malden. The holiest object in the synagogue, which is a Torah scroll, we're going to get a new one that's commemorating that synagogue. So as of right now, it belongs to Congregation Beth Israel of Malden. Its original name was Young Israel of Malden.
Thank you, but I think what he was asking was, how do you pronounce A-N-S?
Oh, that one? Oh,
Yes,
Anshe
L-
Litte? Anshe Litte. L-I-T-T-E. Litte is Yiddish for Lithuania. The original founders of the congregation were Jews from Lithuania. Yeah, that's not a problem.
Thank you. And Rabbi, if you could just sign in, that would be great, so we have your name and address for the record.
And thanks for the point of clarification.
Are there any other questions?
Sorry for the, if I was too light.
Thank you for the history.
Ken Antonucci.
That was it.
Okay. Any other questions for the petitioners? Any questions for Michelle? No? Anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you.
Very good. At this point in time, then, thank you for coming up and presenting. At this point in time, I'd like to entertain anyone who would like to speak in favor of this petition. All those in favor? I don't know, maybe.
Good evening. My name is Lynn Leonard, and I live at 35 Laurel Street in Malden. And I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the owner of 41 Holyoke Street. He also happens to be my husband. We support the demolition of the current property and the construction of a two-family, but the concern we have is that neighbors and tenants of the property have observed that the house is pretty infested with rodents, rats, mice, raccoons, and that we want to ensure that the contractor has taken into consideration some sort of pre-demolition extermination. I think it's typical in neighborhoods like this with demolition of this type, and I'm not sure that's in any plans. And I actually spoke with him at the last hearing before the Historical Commission. He said that he would take that into account, but I don't think there's any mandate that happened, so we'd just like to bring that to the board's attention, as the abutters are quite close to this property, and there's already an issue at 41 Holyoke Street. There's an exterminator that goes there now on a regular basis, and it was actually the exterminator that suggested that we talk to the contractor about doing some pre-demolition extermination.
Okay, thank you. Michelle?
I believe that is required by city ordinance. As part of the issuance of the demolition permit, they have to submit receipts and proof of extermination. The building commissioner maybe could speak to the details of it. I don't know the exact details, but I know it is regulated.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And could I just ask, you mentioned 41, but you mean 45 Holyoke, right?
Right, but I'm speaking on behalf of the owner of 41.
Okay, so you're at 35 Laurel, but you're speaking on behalf of 41 Holyoke.
Correct.
Okay, but does 41 Holyoke have a problem, or 45 Holyoke has the problem?
Both.
Okay.
The tenants of 41 Holyoke have observed rodents on the property of 45 Holyoke, as well as the current owner, Robert Clem, who's actually here tonight.
Okay.
I'm just speaking in his behalf.
So you were talking about 45 Holyoke.
45 Holyoke, but there has been an occasional issue at 41 Holyoke for which they have an exterminator at this time, and it is under control. We just don't want to add to that.
Okay, I see. I understand now. Thanks.
Thank you. If Building Commissioner Miller could just come up and confirm that there needs to be a pre-demolition
Yeah, just to confirm, before we issue a demolition permit, there's a list of conditions that the person has to comply with, and one of those conditions is they have to get the building exterminated and get us a record from the exterminator saying that it's been exterminated, for rodents and insects and whatever they find. So that's a normal course of action for every demolition project.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this petition?
Again, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Malden Planning Board. My name is Neil Anderson. I live at 56 Mill Street in Malden. I'm the Ward 7 City Councilor. I'm the councilor that represents where this location, 45 Holyoke, sits. I'm a major supporter of this petition before us because for a number of reasons. When we look at the history of the building that's there currently, although it's still technically a religious facility and it's in non-conforming use, it hasn't been used as a religious facility for many years. When it was early on in its history, people who used that facility would walk there. Now, anyone who's going to any of these religious facilities are driving there, and there's certainly no room down on Holyoke Street, where this is located, for a congregation of people to be able to come down there for services and activities that would be required if they were going to a religious service. So as a result, we end up having a building that's been deteriorating for a number of years. And the proposals that I've seen where people have come to me asking for my input on the reuse of this facility have often been requests for my support for that, for a use that would bring what I think is just detriment to the community. To have an alcoholic rehab house there, to have other activities that require much more space than right there. People driving their cars there, people who are needing to find a place to park, and this neighborhood is improving over the years. We're seeing houses being rehabbed and improved upon, and so we need to make sure, I believe, that whatever goes in there is the right fit. And I believe that this petition before us is the right fit. To have, with the 2 units there, a total of 4 bedrooms. There's room enough to get the vehicles that would be, owned by the people who live there off the street, into the yard. There are multi-unit houses that are all around it. So this would fit. This would fit here, and so I urge your support of this petition because it fits. It's the right thing to do. We need to raise that current facility that's there. We need to tear that down. We need to build something good that's there. Now, when this petition came before you a couple of years ago, they were looking for 3 units that were in there. To put 3 units in. They've gone back to the drawing board. We got a different petitioner. We get a smaller footprint for this land. And I guess I'm just repeating myself when I say this fits. This would be an improvement to the neighborhood. This would be an improvement to that whole area. And I urge you in the strongest terms that I can say for you to vote favorably upon this petition.
Very good. Thank you, Councilor. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone else in favor? Michelle, do you have anything to read in favor?
Yes, I have one letter dated January 8th, 2020. It reads, Dear Chairman Iovan and Planning Board members, this letter is in support of the applicant for 45 Holyoke Street, who is requesting a special permit, to construct a 2-family residential dwelling at that location. The petitioner is seeking to convert a pre-existing non-conforming property in a Residence A district from religious facility to residential use. The proposed 2-family use is allowed by special permit, and the plan is for a duplex with 1 unit having 2 bedrooms and the second unit having 3 bedrooms. The proposal rectifies a building that has been vacant for an extended period of time and has evolved into a problem property for that area. There are other 2-family and 3-family dwellings abutting the property, and this use is not more detrimental to the neighborhood. Additionally, bringing owner-occupied residential dwellings to the neighborhood is the most desirable outcome. For these reasons, I respectfully request that this special permit be allowed. Please contact me if you need any further information, and thank you for consideration. Sincerely signed, Gary Christensen, Mayor, City of Malden.
Thank you, Michelle. And ask one last time, is anyone who'd like to speak in favor? Seeing and hearing none, declare that part of the hearing closed. Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition of this petition? Anyone speak in opposition?
Hi, thank you for hearing me. My name is George Nazaro, and my family and I live at 74 Holyoke Street. And I understand the condition of the building. I also understand something needs to be done about it. But the previous application was for 6 bedrooms. This is for 5. And I still feel it's too big for the project, for what you want to have, because it's technically basically a single-family lot. So the idea of it is to put the extra bedroom in the 5 spaces. I believe if it was 4 bedrooms with 5 spaces, it would be better. Even if you consider looking at the blueprint for snow removal, things like that, because you can't plow into the street. So you really got nowhere to put the snow come the winter. And the thing that really gets me looking at the blueprints is the potential to abuse the property. If you look at it, on the 3-bedroom unit, all it takes is to finish off your left-hand side. Now you're at 4 bedrooms. Look on the other side, you have a very high attic. You have a very accessible set of stairs. It's not a pull-down set of stairs for attic storage. I don't understand why you need that much of an attic if you have a full basement. So I understand there's economics involved when you want to build something, but I truly believe that the 5-bedroom is too much for this lot. So just to conclude, I would ask the board to do what you can to ensure the project always remains what it is permitted for throughout its lifespan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Michelle, do you have anything to read in opposition? No. Seeing no one else in opposition, declare that part of the hearing closed.
I had one question, if I could, that I didn't ask earlier, but I remembered when we were talking about the extermination. When I was out at the property earlier this week, there was a lot of debris and trash and things. It appears to be used kind of for dumping and stuff. Like there were bags of trash, but there was also a lot of debris. And I did ask the petitioner to address that. And I wanted to know if that had been addressed, and if not, how quickly it's going to be addressed. You know, there's at least, if the board were to grant a permit tonight, at least another month before they could begin to, they could do the demolition sooner rather than later, but they wouldn't be able to come in for a building permit for the new building until after the appeal period, et cetera. So this still could be a fairly significant window for it to remain in its state, so,
Okay.
you know.
Counselor, can you give us an update on the condition of the lot?
Sure, I received Michelle's request, and we've cleaned up the property, have several pictures, if that's helpful.
Okay, great. Yeah, I had asked for pictures too, because I wasn't going to get out there. Okay, great, thank you.
Sorry, we only have 3, but I think it should show
Yeah.
enough.
No, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, great. Do people want to see them or not? Well, anyway, you
Thank
could
you for
see in the
those.
pictures that I took on Monday, there was a lot of stuff, so that's good. The other question, or I wasn't aware there was a basement, because again, there were no plans submitted, so I will be recommending a condition regarding restricting the use of the basement, because I wasn't aware there was a full basement. Otherwise, I would have recommended that, so. Do you want me to go
Okay,
through
if
this?
you can go through the
Yeah.
staff report, please.
So I will note, you know, the project was reviewed by the Historical Commission pursuant to the demolition delay ordinance. They applied for the notice of intent to demolish, application for review. The Historical Commission did determine that the property was significant, and it did move to the next phase under the demo delay ordinance to make the determination whether it's preferably preserved or not. So the Historical Commission did hold a hearing on that matter on October 18, 2019. The commission made the attached determination that the building is not preferably preserved and the demolition permit will not be delayed. I'm noting this also because, for the board's reference, during the process after it was determined to be significant, before they made the determination it was not preferably preserved, they did contract with our consultant for historical inventory to be done of the property, and I just wanted to note for the record, we heard some of the history, but it was one of the most extensive inventories we've ever read about a property in Malden in terms of prior use, and this was even prior to the religious facility use, and I have copies of that if anybody's interested, but it has been documented and photographed, et cetera. So it is, the demolition can proceed, as I said in the beginning. You have a copy of the determination. And that inventory, also for the board's reference, is placed on file with the state, so. The petitioner, you heard, is the new owner and developer. You heard about the proposal. I've listed what the site, what the plans submitted were, as well as the square footage and size of the units. That's all incorporated by reference into the record. Zoning and occupancy, the property is located in the Residence A zoning district. The current religious facility use is allowed in this district. The proposed two-family dwelling is prohibited in this district. It may be allowed by special permit if it's a conversion of a pre-existing non-conforming property. There's also another option to allow a two-family by use variance. This petition is not eligible for that due to the size of the property, and they did not file for that. They filed under the 700 section, so it's properly before you. The direct abutters to the west are three-family dwellings, to the south a three-family dwelling and a single-family dwelling, to the east a two-family dwelling and a three-family dwelling. To the north on the other side of Holyoke Street, a six-unit multifamily dwelling and a four-family dwelling. Surrounding land uses are residential, mostly two- and three-family dwellings. I've made a note here, and as we heard at the beginning, or as you dealt with at the beginning, this property was the subject of a special permit previously, or petition for a special permit to allow a three-family dwelling. That permit was denied in 2017 by this board in case 1710. The repetitive petition was filed seeking consent to file within the 2-year period. That was the case that you allowed to be withdrawn at the prior to opening this hearing. So this is, properly before you. There's no other case pending at this point before you for the subject property. Dimensional controls, the building used for a religious facility, the existing building violates current dimensional controls for lot area and front yard setback. It does predate the current ordinance. It's considered pre-existing non-conforming. The proposal increases the lot area non-conformity from 33% to 46%, maintains a front yard setback violation, creates new violations of frontage, side yard setbacks, and density. I've outlined all the different dimensional controls requirements, deficiencies, etc. here. I will note the yard setbacks, as indicated on the plan, were measured from the building foundation, not as required from the stairs or landings. So the note, what I've indicated here is what's shown on the plan, but it's actually probably a greater setback, a lesser setback, greater violation, at least in terms of the yard setback. Height, I've noted, is defined to be taken using the mean height of the roof, so you look at the mean established grade, and the plans do indicate that the lower roof ridge, which is in the front part of the building, is 21 feet 8 inches, and the higher roof ridge, which is on the back of the building, is 10 feet. So the lowest is 21.8, the highest is 34.10, so you come up with, the fact that it does comply with the height, because you take the mean of that. So the overall height is 28.25 feet, so it complies with height. Just wanted to note that since height was raised as an issue. Parking, the religious facility use of the property requires 95 parking spaces. That's 20 per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area. There's currently no parking on site. The religious facility use does predate the current requirements, so the existing violation, which is 100%, is considered pre-existing non-conforming. The proposed two-family dwelling requires 5 parking spaces. That's 1 space per bedroom. Under the proposal, you do see the 5 spaces provided on site, so it does eliminate the parking deficiency in its entirety. The proposed spaces, so the layout is not exactly conforming. It's non-conforming. The spaces exceed the required dimensions. Access and egress is via the proposed driveway that varies in width 10 to 14 feet. It's less than the required width for one-way traffic or two-way traffic. The western side yard and rear yard do not comply with requirements to devote a minimum of 50% of yard areas to yards to lawn landscaping and not paving. The proposal does require installation of a curb cut on Holyoke Street, which requires DPW approval. I will note parking for single and two-family dwellings is exempt from parking island snow storage requirements. I think somebody mentioned snow storage. So the finding you must make in order to grant the special permit is that the change of use of the pre-existing non-conforming property to residential use is not more detrimental to the neighborhood. So provided that you can make that finding, the recommendation is that a special permit be granted subject to the following conditions. 1, all development shall be as per plans except as modified by these conditions. 2, the maximum total number of bedrooms is 5. 3, paved areas are limited to the driveway and parking area depicted on the plan. All paved areas must be permeable. 4, the front yard and eastern side yard shall be landscaped and may not be paved. 5, install drainage system on site subject to review and approval of city engineer. 6, obtain DPW approval of proposed curb cut. 7, repair or replace sidewalks, driveways, perform necessary incidental work adjacent to the property to the satisfaction of the DPW director. And I would add condition 8, there isn't a basement shown on the plan, so it should say a basement may be allowed and shall be for utilities and storage only. So
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Patrick Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's more of a comment. I credit the concern of the resident who spoke in opposition about the potential for misuse with particularly the 3-bedroom unit. As per the plans, that space across the hall on the 3rd floor could most easily be used as a bedroom. So I would recommend amending condition 2 to be more specific about limiting only 3 bedrooms to that, I believe, the front unit, rather than just 5 for the total property.
okay, so it'll say the maximum number of bedrooms in the front unit is 3, is 2, and in the rear unit is 3. Is
Yes.
that?
Yes.
I think it's the rear unit that's bigger.
Yeah, it could be.
Yes, the rear is large.
Right. Yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't, put any restriction in on use of the attic space. That will be up to the board. If you're restricting the number of bedrooms, you're restricting the number of bedrooms, but not the size of the bedrooms. So, not saying that should be a concern, but I didn't recommend a restriction on the use of the attic. So that attic could technically become a larger bedroom, one larger bedroom. You're not saying, you understand what I'm saying?
No, I understand what you're
okay.
saying. I understand
when
the
you
concern.
looked at me, I was like, okay. So it's, I'll throw that out there if you did want to, right now you're just restricting.
How would you suggest restricting it?
Well, it would say, 3 bedrooms in the front, it would say 2 bedrooms in the front unit, 3 bedrooms in the rear unit as per plan, so it's going to be limited to the layout that's shown on the plan. Another option would be to say, attic space may be used for storage only. But if you want to give them the option that it becomes a family room or something else, that's fine too. I was thinking 2 points. One, that it could be a bedroom, but it could also be some sort of other space, usable space, maybe not a bedroom. Whereas like the basement, you're saying utilities and storage only. So that couldn't become a big family room down in the basement,
I like the idea of putting as per plan on condition number 2.
Okay.
Let's see, we have, Patrick, are you all set?
Yes, thank you.
Eric McCush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just echoing Patrick's concern, I was going to recommend adding attic spaces shall remain unfinished and for storage use only. But that's just a suggestion, whatever other people think.
set, Michelle?
Yeah.
Okay, Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman, were you saying that adding to condition 2, reiterate that it's per plans? 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms? Because I know condition 1 says all development shall be per plans, but then did you just mention
Right,
about
but
adding that?
that's development. I think
Okay.
what condition 2 then says, with Patrick's front unit is 2 bedrooms, rear unit is 3, as per
plans.
plan.
Yep.
So that it doesn't grow.
Right.
I mean, you could say, layout as per plan or something, or size as per plan, I guess.
I think the number of bedrooms and as long as that's per plan, and obviously the whole concern is that we don't want another bedroom cropping up, or 2. But Eric, to your question, and Michelle brought it up too, I wouldn't want to limit them to say that has to remain unfinished space, because what if you did want like a family room or a game room or something, so. Oh, no. Oh, I know. That was my concern about the basement, too. That was a good catch, by the way.
Okay. Anything else?
No, so just to reiterate, your point would be 2 would also add per plans.
Yes.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments for Michelle? Is there a motion? Patrick Fitzgerald.
I would make a motion to grant the special permit with the condition as amended by the city planner.
And so was that with the 8 conditions? Did you include the basement?
Yes.
May be allowed and shall be, okay, so, and then the amended condition 2.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second? Ken Antonucci.
I'll second Patrick's motion.
Very good, and as a reminder, Charlie Ferguson will be voting on this, Diane Chuha will not be voting on this.
Ken seconded.
Ken seconded Patrick's recommendation.
Ken Antonucci,
Yes.
Charles Ferguson,
Yes.
Patrick Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Chawadij Gebrselassie,
Yes.
Patrick Hayes,
Yes.
Eric Henry,
Yes.
Eric McCush,
Yes.
Henry Susi,
Yes.
Chuck Iowa.
Yes. Petition has been granted with conditions. Thank you. Okay. Yep. Yeah, well. Next item on the agenda will be a public meeting item. 10 Florence Street.
You want to do the A&R first? Okay. Well, let me get that. I didn't get that one. Okay, so this is a public meeting. It's not a public hearing. So as part, and you should have a copy of this in your package, as part of your decision regarding 10 Florence Street, in the case 1701, a decision you made granting a special permit to allow a 22-unit addition to the existing 60-unit multifamily building. One of the conditions that you put on the special permit was that review by planning board at a public meeting to determine compliance with conditions prior to issuance of any occupancy permit. So the petitioner contacted us telling us they were ready to pursue the occupancy permit, begin that process, and submitted what you have here, which is a letter dated December 23rd, 2019, from Jack McElhinney, attorney, 63 Shore Road, Winchester, Mass. And it requests, consideration of this. So this is one of the conditions that they need to meet. The building commissioner will be going through all the other conditions before you issuing any occupancy permit, but this is a condition that we needed to look at. So they gave you a spreadsheet checklist of all the conditions, the status, and I've gone through everything with what I think is a pretty fine-tooth comb to review compliance with everything. They've either submitted documentation showing they've complied, or in this letter, or after a site visit I did, they sent additional pictures showing how they had complied, where I had noted a couple of spots did not appear to be in compliance. There is one issue, or two I should say. The contribution to the water improvement fund will be upon issuance of the C of O, so clearly that has not been done yet. And the other outstanding issue has to do with the DPW director sign-off. There are several items that are outstanding, and I did receive a letter, which I requested. DPW has agreed to allow a time frame, spring of 2020, to complete certain repairs. I just received a letter January 7th, 2020, that is a commitment letter from Mark Atneri, Managing Director, Accurate Realty Management, LLC, Central Place Apartments, LLC, 10 Florence Street, that states a commitment to do the outstanding items DPW is requesting, and also provides a confirmation from the contractor who will be doing those items in spring of 2020. So DPW has itemized them, said that they can be done in the spring, and the petitioner or the owner has committed to do them. So I do have pictures taken of the site if anybody's interested. If not, I would recommend you, if anybody has any questions, I can answer them. If not, I would recommend you make a determination that condition 8 is satisfied, that compliance with the conditions has been determined, of course with the exception, again, of the payment and condition 8, which, as I said, is subject to future performance.
Right, so basically, in summary, everything has been applied that can be, everything has been complied with that can be complied with, and there's a path for those, like the sidewalks that aren't able to be done right now.
Yes.
So there's a path to get those done.
Yes, I looked, as I said, I looked at everything, verified, I visited both roof decks if anybody's interested, and inspected everything that I could to determine compliance. As I said, where something didn't appear to comply, the petitioner promptly responded and corrected it, so,
Okay.
and sent proof, so.
Ken, do you have a question?
Michelle, just looking at Ryan O'Malley's, I think it was a letter or an email about the ATM enclosure.
Yeah, that's something else. That ATM enclosure, I understand the counselor, when he was reviewing the landscaping, which was one of the conditions, that the landscaping shall be subject to the review by the city councilor, and his, I believe his, I just put that away, his, what did it say? Landscaping.
Yeah, it's under attachment 2.
Right, so landscaping, develop a qualified open space plan for the existing roof, I'm sorry, that's it. Develop, implement landscaping improvements at the street level elevation with the input of the ward councilor. The ward councilor determined that that ATM enclosure was part of the landscaping improvements, or at least that section of the building, and he requested that the ATM be removed if it's not occupied. The owner, Representative Mark Atneri, represented to me that he was going to comply with that request.
Okay.
Either he was going to locate an ATM tenant or he was going to remove that.
Okay.
I think that is, you know,
I just want to make
that's
sure.
where it stands, so.
All right, thank
It
you.
was nothing you had required.
Right. Thank you.
That is, you know, ATM is, that bank is allowed by right, so.
Okay, any other questions for Michelle? If not, is there a motion to accept the report and approve that they are now in compliance with the planning board review? Ken Antonucci?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the report and confirm that they were in compliance.
Right, with just the exception of the two things that I
yes,
noted, right?
with the exception of the 2 items that Michelle
And
mentioned.
when you, just could I ask, when you say the report, what report? You're saying?
The report out that you just
Oh, okay,
made.
the report I made, okay, all right, thanks. I know I didn't write anything up, okay, thanks. So to approve the recommendation?
Right.
The
Okay.
recommendation.
Compliance, okay. So that was Ken, was there a second or not yet?
Eric Henry.
Thank you, Chair. I can second that motion.
Eric seconds Ken's motion to approve. And Diane will be voting on this one. Let me just, okay, I'm caught up.
Ken Antonucci?
Yes.
Diane Chuha?
Yes.
Patrick Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Tawadich Gebrselassie?
Yes.
Patrick Hayes?
Yes.
Eric Henry?
Yes.
Eric McCush?
Yes.
Henry Susi?
Yes.
Chuck Iovan?
Yes. Approval has been voted on in the affirmative. Okay. Next item, we have an approval not required.
Yes. This approval not required is for 65 Central Ave. You're going to actually, this is coming to you in 2 parts. This is the first part. So this is an existing house lot at 65 Central Ave. There's an existing house on it. The current area is 10,000 square feet. They have obtained, abutting 65 is a portion of the paper street, a portion of Winchester Street that's a paper street. Rights have been abandoned in that paper street, so the proposal is to merge half of the paper street portion with 65. The other half, I believe, is going to be merged with the other house, but that's not what is before you right now. We're only looking at the 65. So as of right now, a portion of Paper Street, Winchester Street, will be merged with existing house lot 65. So creating a new lot with 12,500 square feet. That will be one parcel. When I mentioned that it was going to come to you in two parcels, I believe, pending a future approval, potential approval by a Board of Appeal, they may seek to further subdivide that lot. Right now, they cannot do that. What's noted here is a deed reference. It's not a lot. There's one parcel, 65. It's 10,000 square feet. This is the portion, 2,500 square feet of Winchester Street, that is, rights have been abandoned, including the city abandoned its rights to it. So this is being merged with that. So this is to reconfigure lot lines.
Prior to that, so who owned the paper street?
Nobody owned the paper street.
Well, technically, the city.
The city technically owned it. The abutters had rights to pass and repass. But nobody was paying taxes on it. This is now going to be merged with this lot to create a new lot, 12,500.
You just said half of it, right?
Right,
what about
half
this
of it. That half is going.
Has already gone over?
It has not gone over yet. It's basically they're being used by them, but this is not. They would have to file their own plan to merge this.
So this property owner filed a plan to basically
Yes.
add this piece
Yes.
of property. This property owner
Has not done that yet.
But
So you may see that in the future, right?
I didn't get by this one. Is that a relatively new house? Is that one?
Yeah, it's been renovated. It's been,
So we're not sure that they're going to raise that and try to do
no.
something along
I think what the future is that they're going to try to propose a new house lot. But they need to go for a variance of that. Because this existing house lot would need to keep 7,500, which would leave 5,000. They'll need a variance, so if they were able to get that, they would come back to further subdivide.
that's Residence A?
It's Residence A.
So they can only do a single or two.
A two, you need 13,000, so no, they couldn't do a two. So my recommendation, because the lot has frontage, which is what your inquiry is on this, is that you endorse the plan. So this is an approval not required subdivision plan.
Okay, any questions on the approval not required? Is there a motion to approve it? Can I borrow your pen there?
Oh, I have a Sharpie.
I left mine in the back. Eric McCush.
Motion to approve the plan? To merge the two lots?
Eric's made a motion to approve the plan, the approval not required. Ken Antonucci.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
Ken seconded. All those in favor of approving the approval not required, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None in opposition? Motion carries.
Will that work?
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Appreciate your help tonight.
Will that work, the pen?
I don't know. I can use my own. I have it on my car. I can run out and grab it in my car. I just switch bags.
We're going to go back to the office, sign it there.
Okay. Yeah, I'll sign it.
Okay.
Very good. Next item on the agenda is committee updates. For Master Plan Steering Committee, we have not met, so there is no update. Ken, can you give us an update on community preservation?
We're just continuing to review the applications.
Very good. And is there an end date that they have to have it done by, or is it just, we're into the new year, wouldn't they be starting the next cycle soon?
Yeah, basically the new cycle will start in like June, when we'll start with the pre-apps and everything, but really need to be done, wrap it up within this next month or 6 weeks.
Okay.
Because we'll have to start presenting the budget and make the proposals and everything for next year, so.
Get all that. Okay, any questions for anyone? No? Great. Michelle, can you give us an update on
I don't have the agenda.
Housing Production Plan Advisory Committee?
Same status, we have not reconvened again, so no update.
Okay. Broadway Corridor Plan study?
That is ongoing. We're going to be meeting again next month. I believe there'll be another community presentation. I think the study's going to be wrapping up soon. So I will bring you whatever materials I have once that is in order. I'll also invite you to any other events or activities. I think a lot of you took the survey. That was good. Complete Streets Task Force, no updates. Mayor's Working Group to revise zoning. We have not met recently, but we are still meeting. Working on a couple things that, again, sooner or later will probably come to you as zoning amendments. What's the last thing? I can't see. Okay. We're meeting, the Row Quarry Site Plan Review Committee is convening tomorrow night to consider a request by the petitioner to amend the site plan approval that was granted last August. They would like to amend a couple of the conditions that concern traffic mitigation that's required.
Okay, thank
And this is the same approval for the same 3 buildings, the last 3 residential buildings in Malden that are under construction.
Okay, anyone have any questions? No? Okay, our next regularly scheduled meeting is Wednesday, February 12th, 2020. We will see you all then. Thank you very much for everyone. Have all the hard work, and it was a long night, but thank you very much. And have a good night. Motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Have a good one.